It's a whole thing.
Laura, good evening. You have a whole row for library tonight. All three of you. So are you rolling yet? Yeah.
Morning, we're not live yet.
Okay.
So
Well,
checks out.
I stand by what I said.
During a few more seconds. And for you ladies, we can't start right till 6:30 because that's the official time and posted, and you'll hear me say a couple words before you leave after the deal. But so I'm showing 6:30. Are you rolling? Very good. Remember, ladies, you all hit the gavel. This gavel has been around for 76 years. We're going to start the meeting. Welcome, everybody. We have a great privilege with us tonight to have Troop 40020 to lead us in the pledge. And not only that, they have the flag ceremony of life. So ladies, if you could come straight up, follow me up this way with the flags. Come this way.
You want to put this out?
And you have assistants to you, I can see. That's very good.
It's a very sharp.
Make sure the parents don't mess anything up. It's you to make sure it goes well. Okay? Yep.
How we get space?
They know where the
Oh, you're talking about city's flags.
Lawrence, what is the first flag? Oakland County, and we have more citizens, voting citizens in Oakland County, so it's first. Very good, and then you can go right down, right in front of the area. The second one is Wayne County flag, right there, because we're the only municipality in what did we say? 2 counties. You ladies can go right in front, right next to your troop mate. Now this is the city of Northville flag, believe it or not, going back 1827, we've been around. The next one is we're in this big area called the state of Michigan. We've been a city 10 years before Michigan was a state. Go right down there. And then, oh, this is a really important one, isn't it? This is, what is this?
American.
The American flag. You are correct. We're part of America. Okay, so ladies, follow me down here. You guys all line up, go right up against. So if everybody can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And those with microphones by the ladies, hang on, ladies. I'm going to put this down there. So everybody's going to hear you here, and everybody online at home, and your grandparents on the video tomorrow on YouTube and the whole bit. So face everybody and let's say, oh, actually face the flag this way. See where the American flag is? Let's all say the pledge. You guys start.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Nice job, ladies. Nice job. Now you can go to the back of the room. So you've done your deal for society so much. So with that, if we could do the roll call, that would be great, Michelle.
Mayor Turnbull. Mayor Turnbull.
Here.
Councilmember Shinetti.
Here.
Friend.
Here.
Ross Brown.
Here.
We have a full quorum here tonight. We have a lot of things on the agenda, not too much on the normal agenda, but a lot of presentations. So you're going to hear a lot of activities here tonight. It'll be very interesting. So with that, if you are newbies here, when you come in to the right is the agenda. Just grab it off the wall there. And all you ladies, when you leave, make sure you get a get out of jail free card and you went on the tour virtually and one of those little packages. Thank you, ladies, for coming to the council meeting here tonight. We appreciate that. So with that, what you have in front of you is the agenda for tonight. We are on number 4, the approval of the agenda. Is there anything to change or to delete from the agenda? If not, I am looking for a motion to go forward with the agenda. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Okay, do we have support?
I'll support.
Okay, we have a double support on either side. Boom, hit the buzzer. With that, no other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Great, we have an agenda. Public comment. There wasn't too much written comment that came in. Did we have any after 4 o'clock?
We did actually.
Yeah, so but not after 4. So how many did we have before 4 today?
About 6.
Okay, so we had, again, if you're out in the audience or online, anything that came in is there available for you to look at as part of the council package. If it came in after 4, we try to print it up and try to get out there in the whole bit. So with that, again, we're meeting in policies and procedures according to the state of Michigan and the governor. This is the Open Meetings Act. So we kind of go by the Roberts rules of order here. So that's what you'll see. So now we're on number 5, public comment. Anything that's not on the agenda. I'm going to give you 2 minutes for everything on the agenda. If it's something other than the agenda items, and that includes, we have different presentations I'm going to give you at that point. If you, anything on the presentation for the library, for the pavement, and then new business is just the sign ordinance, HDC fees, and the Vector truck. You're all here about the new Vector truck, I'm sure. So if you have any comments, save it for those. If there's anything other than that on your mind, this would be the time. And yes, it's a beautiful night out there, isn't it? And you're in here. We have a place up north and it snowed 34 inches in the past 24 hours. So it's wild and exciting up north, right? The tow truck got stuck on the road before our place. So it's pretty wild in the northern countries of Michigan right now. Good. Any comments in here? Very good. I'm closing off. Oh, come right up. If you're speaking about the downs.
No.
Okay, good.
Surprise.
It's all yours, Jeff. I can't believe it.
No. And I don't know if this is the right part on the agenda to do this or under the public hearings.
Start and tell me under the public hearing if we're talking about that land.
We're talking about the land.
So I'll give you
Okay.
an opportunity at that point.
My name is Jim Coster, and I live at 204 St. Lawrence Boulevard. I'm confused, I'm perplexed, and I'm looking for this group of people to clarify a lot of the questions that I have on the purchase of the property, the 1.06 acres.
Great.
I'm looking at your document called, go ahead.
I think that's a public hearing.
Yeah, so I did say the time on that is the public hearing. So why don't you just hold that deal and I'll tell you when to come up on that.
Because we want
That'd
to
be
hear
great.
it. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm going to
so
give you your full time. So you got 2 minutes and 12 seconds when you come back. Thank you very much.
it may be longer.
Okay,
But
it will
it may
not.
be longer because you might have to help me.
Okay, we appreciate that.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I think it'll be evident. Good. Anything else, Jim? We will get to that. I will tell you exactly.
Okay.
So I am closing off public comment here. If you could let them know how to raise their hand electronically online, that would be great, Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anyone that's watching the broadcast at home that would like to make public comment, we ask that you call into the public comment line, the toll-free public comment line. You can find instructions for that on the agenda. As soon as you get in the meeting, we'll just ask you to raise your virtual hand. At this time, there are no callers on the comment line, Mr. Mayor.
Great. That's not great, but we'll give it count of 1. Anybody else? You can't see all the people online. You just see when they raise their hands. Public count of 2, 3. Okay, I am closing off public comment for things not on the agenda. And yes, Jim, I will tell you exactly when to speak on the agenda there. So the next one is number 6, consideration of approving the following consent agenda. A lot of different things on that. It's all public knowledge. Our bills, the consideration of the tree champion designation, a walnut tree that I think you found in town, consideration of the generator replacement, Allen Terrace, training, other things that's in front of you. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. And I would just say the amount of work in, that's what A through N is huge and really great items, but we'd be here till midnight.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, indeed. So we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion? Support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the consent agenda, say aye. Aye, all opposed. Again, every one of these little letters on their numbers, a lot of work for everybody in the administration throughout the past 2 weeks. It's amazing. We have a meeting every 2 weeks. Township has it every month. We have a lot, on consent, a lot of things we look at and a lot of things on our agenda. But thank you. I see a lot of the staff in the back. Thank you for all your work on that. So with that, we are going to get to presentations number 7. First up will be the Northville District Library Community Survey. So tell us about that.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carol Doyle. I'm a longtime city resident, but I'm here today as the chair of the Library Board of Trustees. And as hopefully you know, we are conducting a survey for all city residents and township residents to give us input on the future of the library. And just like you, with all the work that you're doing, you research it, you talk about it, gather information. That is what we're doing. We had 2 community forums in the fall that we thought were pretty well attended, but we expect the survey to reach so many more residents and get a much more representative feeling of what people are thinking in the community. It's open for all ages, so encourage your children, anyone who lives in your household, your neighbors. We really want to get as many responses as we can. It's open now and will last until April 15th, so there's plenty of time. And hopefully some of you may know it only takes about 5 minutes to do.
Yeah.
It's 10 questions, plus there's room at the end where you can write your additional comments. So please let people know to do it. And we are looking forward to the results. We're looking forward to the input. As some of you know, we have several options that we're considering, and we need the input from the community.
Great. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have put over the last few weeks in come right out. In the last 3 weeks, I put it in my newsletter. I know people have called me and it's a hot link right to that. So they don't even have to go someplace. And it's been on city news. We're trying to get it out to as many people for you in the city and the township. And Laura asked me earlier on, could we get that out? And we did. And we're trying to do that. And I think people are calling me because I know they're hitting the hot link because it's all working. I always hope that all the
And
links
that's
work.
exactly what I meant to say, was that when I opened my Thursday newsletter and saw the paragraph with exactly what I wanted to say tonight,
Great.
I was really appreciative that the city took that on and made
Great.
sure it's getting out. So
Yeah.
very much appreciated.
Yeah, and I was seeing it quite a bit on different social media platforms, that others are sharing it as well, which is really good.
Right.
So,
I thought it'd be okay. People have asked me, could they share that link?
yeah.
Absolutely. If they're a city and
Yes.
township, because the more the merrier out there. So I should have called you, Laura, but I figured you wanted more people to know what was going on. Well, I don't know about that, but you're gonna get a few people.
Lower the.
If you get 80%, that's not
So
bad.
thank you for all the work. And then at the end, you'll probably come back and give us the results, sometime in a month or two. It's open to April 15th, tax day. Isn't that unique and exciting? Good. So
One quick element, I did raise this at Allen Terrace at our Housing Commission meeting last week, and I had several come up to me afterwards. I'm looking across to Joe Lynn. But if we could get copies, it might be good to drop these off up at Allen Terrace, just so those residents have access, because I always want to make sure their voice.
and then we'll give them to you in an envelope and have a third party or somebody
Yeah.
put them in or something, you
If-
can do
like,
that
I
or
could
go
swing
in
by,
them
pick them
yourself.
up and drop them off if you've
Yep.
got, I don't know if you have them at the library available, but I could go grab a
Yep.
few.
You're exactly right. I was up there for the St. Patty's thing and they, about 2 hours ago, and they mentioned it. So, and yeah, John mentioned it earlier. Excellent. Any questions on that? Any comments here tonight? I would say get on there. Yep, come right up, please, Lenore.
So Lenore Lewandowski, 119 Randolph Street. So I did try to take the survey this week, and I had some issues with using it on my iPad. I don't know if anyone else.
No issues, just opportunities.
I did use it on, I was able to complete it using my phone, which is Android. So that worked fine. So I don't know if anyone else has mentioned that. Just wanted to let the folks know that.
Great.
I had a few concerns about some of the questions because I felt they were a little leading. I'm not an expert on how to do surveys. Done a little research, but that was my only concern. But hopefully everybody is able to access it. So I'm glad that there are paper copies.
Great.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll sift through it, and people will have that comment at the end, but I hadn't heard from the people. I have about 3,800 people that get my newsletter every week, and I haven't heard that they had a problem with the link and the whole bit. But yeah, some devices, maybe an Android isn't. Great. Anybody else here on the library survey? Great. I'm closing it off for comments here. Anybody online that you see with their hand up on this opportunity, Ken?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor. And you've got about 20 people that are viewing.
Okay, great. It'll build. Okay, I will close off public comment. on the library survey. Let's switch gears to OHM on the road pavement analysis presentation. I take it, George, are you going to bring us up to speed? I don't think that Mike is here tonight, right?
Mike is here.
Oh, I didn't see it, Mike. You're right behind the microphone. So, Mike, you and George, if you want to start, Mike, and just introduce George and the expertise. Sorry about that. I didn't see you past the podium.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor and Council. As promised, throughout the last few months, we've been actually a few years, we've been working on looking at our roads, doing an assessment, our annual PACER ratings. And George from OHM here presenting on what we found and some future recommendations. I'll sit right here and happy to answer any questions once he's done. I think George.
Yeah,
George.
so other George is going to jump
Yeah,
in
just
just real quick.
George first.
Thanks,
George,
Mike.
2 seconds.
So this is, an opportunity for the city because as council knows, we've been making tremendous efforts over the past 2 decades to pay off the pension, and realizing that savings has resulted in the city being able to allocate additional money into our road funding. So we asked them specifically to model, I believe it was an extra $600,000 per year, to find us more projects that they could do in phases. And then potentially, after looking at it, I think we probably were being a little conservative and could probably come up with some more and then bring some of those future projects forward. So as you look at this, I think it makes a good start, but I think that there's probably a little bit more we can do and a little bit more flexibility. So I just want to point that out, that there's more room to do a little bit better, but with that.
And George, too, is in charge of the engineering, OHM and what have you, so he will get a little bit more technical on us. It's all yours, George.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me tonight. George Sokoff, OHM Advisors. I'm involved in a lot of your city projects, as you know, so road network being one of them. I'm going to take you through a road analysis we've had under our supervision for a couple of years now. As Mike mentioned, a couple of years ago, we went out and did road ratings, PACER ratings, and then we prepared a PACER report. So it's a comprehensive road analysis report based on the ratings with recommendations for rehabilitation, reconstruction, funding. So those ratings and that report was done about 2 years ago. And since then we've done a little more analysis. So I'm going to try to kind of take you through the progression and kind of give you a snapshot of where we're at with the road network. Can you scroll down?
Yeah, bye.
So just a quick overview. I'll give a quick overview of the city road assets. We'll talk about some of the recent road projects and planned road projects over the next 6 or 7 years. We'll talk about the historical and current road funding, and then we'll look at some of the recommended projects and the overall condition of the network.
And realize people don't understand. We have about 30 miles worth of roads, and we'll have a couple more miles down at the Downs. I mean, think of all the crisscross. It can't be. We're only a couple square miles. We have 30 miles of roads, not only the road, but all the infrastructure underneath. So it's a little bit larger project than you think. Go right ahead.
So this figure here, I guess the segue there from the mayor. So you have about 3 miles of Oakland County roadway. Generally, that's the green color. The 8 Mile Road is under Oakland County jurisdiction, as well as Novi Road. The Wayne County roadways, the main east-west corridor, 7 Mile Road, the north-south corridors, South Main Street on the lower right side of the figure, and then going up Griswold on the east side of the city. That's also a Wayne County route. The city majors and city locals, I apologize, it's a little hard to decipher between the maroon and the red, but mainly in terms of city majors, Center Street, runs through the heart of the city from south to north. Randolph is a connector that kind of hits that northwest kind of route right through the center of the city. And then in terms of the other majors, I mean, Main Street is considered a major. This is a smaller city, so the differentiation between majors and minors sometimes a little gray. But I think you have an idea. Most of your neighborhood roads where you have subdivisions are considered locals, and then the more thoroughfare routes are considered major roadways. You have approximately 26 miles of total public roadway, characterized with 7 miles as major, 19 as local. And then, the Downs development that's currently going on will add about 1 mile to the public road network. Thanks.
So that gets your 33 miles of roads that we touch, which will get another mile or so,
So a little earlier, I mentioned the PACER system. It's a system of roadways that's adopted by most communities in Michigan. Gives you a kind of a template to follow in terms of rating roadways, 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best condition. We apply that rating, with trained and certified raters in our office, and they apply those ratings. You can see a summary here in terms of the major roadways and the local roadways. So major roadways, and it's typical for most communities, they typically score a little higher than the locals. In a lot of cases, the major roadways are easier to rehabilitate because they're typically straight routes that you can do easy mill and overlay projects on, and the locals tend to lag a little bit behind with ratings. So you can see that snapshot here in terms of the color coding. The green being in that 8 to 10 range, which is generally considered a new road or newer road. Fair in the 5 to 7 range, which would be roads you see that maybe have some crack sealing done, but in general are smooth to drive on. And the poor roads, I think, are pretty obvious. A lot of alligator cracking, a lot of potholes, just tough to navigate, in need of full replacement. So that's kind of a general characterization of the different rating systems. In terms of, I know I think a lot of residents in the community may want to know, how do you compare to other communities? In general, I think overall your ratings for local roads are fairly consistent with other cities in Southeast Michigan. The major scores are probably a little lower. So from an overall scoring standpoint, you may be a little lower than similar communities, but not too far off. So this table is a summary of some of the recent projects we performed and some of the near future projects we have planned. A lot of these roads are piggybacking with the water main program, which, as you know, the bonds were sold for water main projects. In a lot of those projects, we're doing open cut reconstruction of the water main. So therefore we'll be replacing at least half the roadway. And in those cases, we'll be doing full road width reconstruction.
Can I ask one question on that? Yeah, so excuse me. When I get down to 2027, what I see is, because I know it is a choice and there's a cost in terms of full road replacement or mill and overlay, but on Katy Street, see it under 2027, both boxes are checked.
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah.
supposed to be that way?
Yeah.
Because none of it's usually one or the other.
Yeah, I think the reason there is from Center to Hutton, it's a full replacement due to the condition of the roadway.
There's 2 segments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a segment further to the east that's a little better condition. That would be a mill and overlay.
Okay.
So yeah, you can see some of the past projects we've done already, such as Yerkes, Orchard, Deborah Lane, Eaton was reconstructed this last year. This year in 26, we have 4 projects planned, 3 of which are due to the water main reconstruction. In 2027, River Street is also part of the water main program and will be reconstructed. And if there's a question on timing on River Street, the main reason we pushed it to 27 is because we have a lot of construction activity going on in that 7-mile River Street corridor. And we thought it made sense to move that to the spring. We have an intersection reconstruction going on at 7 in South Main, which is a Wayne County project. We have a pedestrian River Street. We have a pedestrian Hawk signal crossing going in. And there's also a pathway, shared use pathway being constructed from the township into the city that will go down 7 Mile towards the farmer's market. So there's going to be a lot of construction activity in that corridor. So we'd like to do River Street in the spring and summer of next year. Next slide. So this is just a figure that shows the different locations we just looked at in color coding to just give you a graphical representation how it spans across the city. So you can see where a lot of them are planned, and keep in mind that many of these projects are dictated by the water main project. I think the one I just forgot to mention on the previous slide, Center Street in 2028, the city received funding, federal aid funding through Wayne County to do a rehabilitation on Center Street. So that's planned for 2028. I believe you received around 737,000 out of a $1 million project. Some of that being replacement of the Center Street culvert, which I guess just FYI, we also submitted a earmark funding request for that to try to fund the rest of the culvert replacement. So we'll see if we get that.
Great.
shared cost. Yeah. Next slide. So this slide touches on some of the, historical, I guess, and past funding. Back in 2017, there was a expiration of a road millage increase, which my understanding is that was not adopted. In 2018, there was a $3 million road bond. Street drainage and sidewalk improvement fund is currently used for funding road projects, and the current typical funding, you can see the breakdown there. It's about 250,000 towards the majors, just under 600,000 towards locals. And as as the city manager mentioned earlier, another 600,000 is going to be directed towards rehabilitation projects, which I'll touch on the next slide. So before we get to some of the planned projects, I wanted to show this slide because I think it gives a good snapshot of the cost of these projects and how, inflation and the cost of labor has affected the ability to do road projects. So you can see over the last 12 years, generally the cost of reconstructing a mile of asphalt and concrete roadway has more than tripled, whereas your rehabilitation, it has followed, inflation in terms of material costs, but you can see that the cost to reconstruct a roadway is much more costly than rehabilitating.
Typically, what's the life expectancy or the amount of time that a reconstructed road will be an asset that doesn't need to be replaced versus a mill and overlay?
So for asphalt, reconstruction with asphalt, typically we plan for about 25-year life. Now, in reality, it's typically much longer than that because you're doing crack sealing, you have good subgrade drainage. So, but that's a rule of thumb. Concrete is more in the 30-year plus range for reconstruct. There's different levels of road rehabilitation, but I would say generally for asphalt rehabilitation, you'll get at least 7 to 10 years out of that project, and most times more. With concrete, there's different methods to rehabilitate concrete roadways, such as patching, fixing joint repair. Now what Wayne County's been doing a lot of, and we recommend in certain cases, is we even do mill and overlays on concrete roads. So we can mill off a couple inches and do an overlay, and you will get pattern cracking coming through, but you're still going to get a pretty good surface for
Is that where you get the singing roadways?
10 years. What's that?
The Wayne County singing roadways?
Singing roadway?
Yeah, we had
So an
that on
8 mile between Meadowbrook and the bridge, when you go down, your tires sing because they did it in the cold weather and there's ripples on it and it's easing out a little bit. They are looking to redo that. It's a singing road of life. Yes.
Before you move off of this, you had that one, looking, because you mentioned about the inflation adjustment factor and the 55 cents a mile, that asphalt, and then the 1.4 on the adjacent column, is that 55 adjusted for inflation already? Like, is that putting 2014 dollars in 2026 dollars?
No.
Okay, because it has, so if you do 55 cents and what is the equivalent, it's 77 cents, but it has doubled. As opposed to, so it's still, to your point, it's still gone higher, but it's not triple because you do them both in current dollars. And then the asphalt, what's interesting, because I did the 275, converted that, and it's right around 380 to 384. So it's interesting that the mill and overlay is actually cheaper than if you factor in inflation, yet on the other, it's doubled.
And I think a lot of it is material inflation versus labor, the cost of labor.
Okay.
A big part of it.
All right, anyway.
And could I just touch on one thing? So when I asked OHM to look at this project, we had said to try to put the 600,000 or some number every year that we would do on overlays to try to get the most bang for the buck, but also to try to preserve the roads that are in good enough condition to be preserved. So someone might see and say, well, this road is a 2 or a 3. Why are you working on this road that's a 6? And why are you giving that an overlay? Well, the reality is the other road is a failed road and needs a full reconstruction. You can't do an overlay to it.
Right.
But you can spend a little bit of money relatively and redo a road that's a 5, and you can keep it from getting to a 3 or a 4, thereby really getting a much better value. So we're really asking to try to spread that money around to save the roads that can be saved, rehabilitate them, and really try to get more bang for the buck and get better value. So that's what they're focusing on. It's not spending 600,000 to just tear up and completely reconstruct one little section of road. It's to try to spread it around and preserve roads that can be preserved.
If you wait too long, it's going to cost so much. I think Eaton Drive, when I was a kid in 1967, I was 7 years old, 59 years ago is when they did the full reconstruct. It lasts a lot longer than 30 years, and you can see it. That's why it's been as bad as it is. But that you couldn't do anything else because it's been so long. It costs so much to redo.
What's interesting is, I think back 5 years ago, we had a lot of discussion of moving from the mill and fill or mill and overlay to reconstruction. But as I'm looking at the numbers there, you think at 3 times the life expectancy, the cost is way more than 3x. So there's also an argument of if you can maintain the roads to prevent going directly to the reconstruction. Now, obviously, once a road's degraded, you don't have a choice anymore, but it does give an incentive to be proactive and try to get in front of these where we can.
And that is the Oakland County, or the Road Commission of Oakland County, I think they call themselves. That's been their philosophy as a priority. And we even saw that when we had the improvements along 8 Mile between Taft and Beck Road. And we were like, why? Because we contributed some to that. And the question is, it doesn't seem to be in that bad a shape. But Oakland County's like, well, if we do it now, we can extend this many, many years. So I think going with that philosophy is good, as long as we also deal with those that are in absolutely horrible conditions. So
It's all yours.
Yeah, just to touch a little more before I get into this list on, the deciding factors to do the rehabilitation instead of the replacement. I mean, it is good to catch those roads in that, I would say 4 to 7 rating, so you can rehabilitate. I mean, the other thing we did when we did the PACER ratings is we had a geotechnical engineer do cores of the cross section. Because the other aspect is you can only do a rehabilitation on a roadway that has enough cross section to be able to do that kind of a fix. So the last thing you want to do is have a contractor go out there thinking you can rehabilitate a road and you can't, because then it turns into a replacement. You haven't budgeted for it. So that's also a big part of the plan.
and that was a significant part of the difference to where we are now. And it took a while. It was because of when those PACER ratings are really based on,
Surface,
the surface, but then you went down and you did additional data collection for road. Did you do that on road segments?
We did on certain segments, typically in that 4 to 7 range, because
Okay.
we knew those were going to be candidates.
So you targeted
Yeah.
those for okay, thank you.
So this gives you what we did in terms of the extra $650,000 that the city manager set forth. We put certain segments of roadway in phases, not necessarily that you have to do phase 1 this year and 2 next year. But that it just made sense to us in terms of the rating of the road and the fix we're proposing. And thirdly, the geographic area, we put them into phases. So this is how we group the projects, generally, and they're not all right at 600,000. Some are less, some are more, but it's on average 600,000. So this is how we came up with the phasing based on that analysis.
And I do say this is where we would consider bringing some phases forward if we have additional money, which we think we will.
Sure.
So moving some phase 2 roads to phase 1 to try to get a little bit more impact. And I think that we had the discussion with your partner engineer that prepared it, that you could move a couple of phases, but you don't want to move from phase 7 to phase 1 because those roads tend to have more good life on them, and then you're repairing it before it's time. So there's a lot that went into this analysis. They're not all interchangeable. You would move within a few phases perhaps and pull them forward. And the phases generally line up to years. So this is a 7-year plan, but if we move forward, maybe it could be a 5-year plan and we can get it done quicker.
I have a question related to what George just said, and both Georges. So on the historical and current funded road funding, we're spending about, well, it says major minor roads, typically it was about 800,000. And then it said an additional 600,000, but I'm not thinking that's the way the math works out.
So there's a complexity here. These are just the additional roads. The road funding you're talking about has been put into local projects along with the water and sewer reconstruction
Yes.
to combine to get better value.
Yeah.
So there's additional road funding being spent, but
Right.
those are the reconstructions with sewer projects.
Right.
These are just the additional dollars that would go towards road.
Yeah, so you might, in fact, I think maybe because this would be great to have on our website under roads, but I think just some tweaking, because to clarify that, George, that,
And Mike can correct me if I'm wrong about that. Is that generally, that's pretty correct,
Yeah.
right?
Correct. So the additional funding in the local major is typically around 750 to 800. And we combine that with water, sewer, or any other larger projects like Eaton Drive this year. So
And give an example for this coming season, where's that money going for the water? And that's going to the,
it's going with conjunction with the water, where you're going to treat Linden Court, Butler, Pennell,
Church Street.
Church Street, yep.
so it's
And-
going towards projects, but it's not, those were additional
Yeah,
projects
right.
for the 600,000.
Yeah,
Just look at this as like the pension payment dividend here.
Yes. Like the piece,
Yeah.
it's like the,
Just look at it that way.
Yeah.
And these streets in the next, the seventh phase are streets that are going to be easy, mill and fill. Our public utilities have been upgraded already. We're not sure about other public utilities like gas and DTE. So that could change the phasing a little bit as well. But like I said previously, the 800 that we get out of the major and local will go towards our infrastructure, full reconstruction streets.
So just so I'm following though, because it makes perfect sense, but if I look at the recent and planned road projects, so the 2026 streets, which you just named,
Yep.
2027 River, Katy, Griswold, Grace, Grandview, those all are going to remain in those years. We're not pulling them forward. We're just adding in these additional ones with that 600,000 per year that we're going to have
Yes.
from paying down the pension.
Yeah.
so I think I get it.
Mhm.
But in terms of something for the public, like just to make sure, we spend all of this.
Yep.
And in addition, we're spending this, versus, so those are close
We're
together.
almost ready to
the
put this
distinction.
online, aren't we?
Well, it.
After we approve it.
With some
Right.
dates, yeah.
Yep.
Because it really is a big picture and a big investment and additional road investments.
When
we
connecting
wanna
those
make
two,
that-
so we can see like here, and I know
Mhm.
the hard part is there's always some flux in terms of you start
Oh,
working on a
absolutely.
road and it takes longer than you expect, it costs more than you expect. But it's still a great thing for, I think, the community to see that here are the roads that are planned for 2026, 2027, 2028. Because that's one of the biggest questions I think any of us, I'm
Oh,
assuming, get.
absolutely.
Yeah.
When's my road going to be fixed? And being able to look at that timeline and say, sorry, it's 2029.
Well, that's what I like
At
about
least there's a date.
I like the phasing of it because, like I mentioned before, we don't know what other
Yeah.
infrastructure might be out there that might need to get replaced. And also certain years, we might not have the funding for a full reconstruct, and it's due to the water main portion. It's not necessarily the road. So, but there is a few streets on here that were not included. I just want to highlight like High Street. We recently received the final grant for that culvert crossing. So you'll probably
That'll
see
help.
that in the next year or two.
I'll stop emailing you now.
Yeah. Thanks. So, and as we've always done, we're always out actively looking for grants and other funding sources. So this plan could change if we receive more money, depending on what we receive.
So the headline I see on this, if you were to just summarize it, is because of the pension payment, we can increase our base funding by 70% from 800,000 to 1.4 million. So we're going to be able to redeploy all that. We heard you. We need to get these streets fixed. Here's the plan. There's your dividend on the pension pay down. But then we'll see, we still got a lot of work to do after that. That's how I frame this.
Yep. And the other side of the other part is that we should be getting more Act 51 money. And some of that should be going to local streets. So a portion of this additional money could go to local streets to get us to that 800 or 900,000.
When
So,
do we find out the status of the Act 51 funding?
so see, our finance director has been online looking at that because they usually have computations, and she seems to say I thought the number she gave us was about a $200,000 to $300,000 increase is what she's guesstimating for the year going forward.
Okay.
So that would sort of fit with what we've heard
The
we
mill
will
and
be
fill
getting.
someplace.
And then that could go into mill and fills and to that work as well. So,
Yes.
so overall, I think we're moving in the right trajectory. I don't know if George, if you have more slides or.
Just a couple.
Okay, so, yeah.
This is just it's an overview of the both the water main, the bond projects, you know, on the left side of those colors and the 7-phase with the extra 600,000. So you can see it across the whole city, how it'll be dispersed here in terms of all the funding available.
Okay, so.
It's kind of depressing though.
Yeah, not as much as this.
Just wait, there's more.
No, I meant in terms of,
I did. find
with
it.
all of this investment, the roads continue, right? Your average Paisley rating still, I mean, it's so hard to keep up with it. I mean, so I didn't mean that it's a depressing presentation. It's the Paisley rating, you know,
It's
not,
outstanding.
you'd hope that it was going. Lots of opportunity.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, this is, I guess, in conclusion, even with the extra money going in, I guess the point here is that it's not enough to keep your rating where it's at. And it just kind of shows you the amount of funding that's needed to maintain a road network. You know, even with that 600,000, you can see it creates a little bit of a gap there in terms of raising the ratings, but it doesn't change the trajectory. And I think that's the big point here.
And then to go back to my opening comment where we try to move some projects forward with additional pension money or additional general fund money and additional road money from the state. We're hoping we can move this a little bit quicker and try to make better progress, because it's not exactly, even if you zoom out, they don't look like they're separate lines at all practically, which wasn't exactly what $600,000 a year would you expect to look like. But I think that if we weren't spending the additional money, we would risk losing roads that would not be able to be rehabilitated in the future. So it actually does a lot of good things for our road network. It's just not showing in terms of the condition, the impact we'd like to see. But I think we're going to make more progress in the coming years.
And it's a good point, because if you projected these out beyond 35 into the 40s and 50s, that's where you would see the issue with not investing in some of these easy, you know, rehab projects now.
Yeah, I mean,
George, the population is the target of 6, is that right? Across,
You know, I would say a 5.5 to 6 is a good target, as an overall network, you know, both majors and locals.
so
That's where we'd like to be.
Yeah, I think you'd like to be.
We're
closing in on
we're not even
six.
close.
yeah, we're not even close on that front.
yeah,
But-
Making progress.
Oh,
We-
yeah.
Stabilizing. We're
Yeah,
stabilizing.
we're stable-
That's
The
Absolutely.
opportunity for so many years, not much was going on. We're trying to catch it.
Right.
And then we'll go back. So we have been investing over the last 5 or 6 years, where before it was on that downstroke. Now we're about evened off. You see that? And we should be coming up. We should be coming up, correct?
It's important to catch
Yeah.
the 4s and 5s and get them back up to the 9s and 10s. I mean, that's critical, and you're doing that. So that's a great thing.
Right.
Oh, just as background, so, because we're throwing out Act 51 funding, we talk about local and major roads. Act 51 is the money we get from the state based on the miles of roadway we have, and there's a differential calculation if you have for a major road segment versus a local road segment. So we get more money for a major road. And the other good news is we have many segments that we would consider just a local residential street, but we get major road funding, South Rogers, Katy, Wing, Hutton, part of Horton. So it adds up. I mean, by the time if you strung those segments out, they're longer than Main Street. So.
And I just want to give a real brief history on the PACER. So back in 2016, 17, when we first started, we were at 4.6. And then when we went out for the bond in 17 and we didn't get it, went back in 18, secured that 3 million. By the time our project started in 2019, we dropped from a 4.6 to a 4.2. So our base, we were at a 4.2. And then we used that 3 million to upfront our program. And we did get up to that 5, I think almost 5.4, 5.5 back in 2021. And then obviously the funding wasn't there and we dipped back down.
Oh, that's
So, but I just want to give you guys a little bit of that history there. So.
Absolutely.
I mean, my general comment, we've been talking about this for the last several years, that we knew this was coming. I know, George, I think I brought up the pension fund being allocated to roads in every one of our one-on-ones for probably a year plus. This tells me that is absolutely the right decision, but it also makes a pretty clear statement that we have not solved anything. If anything, we're just trying to get to stable, and we need to continue to look for other opportunities to find additional funds to put towards it going forward. So just as a baseline, I think that's got to be the message coming out. Is the reality is I love that we're increasing the number of roads we're doing. I like that we've been asking for a long time, Mike and George, to get a plan that shows us year by year, phase by phase, what are the roads are coming so we can start working towards that. Absolutely the right thing for us to be doing. But we've still got a lot of work to do to get back to where we should be as a community.
Yeah, and then also mentioned on maintenance, George mentioned, crack sealing. So historically, we would do about 3 to 4 lane miles a year in crack sealing. I actually just got it posted today for this upcoming season, the cracks with the pavement marking. And I'm looking at almost about 7 miles this year. Yeah, so those are some of the streets that were recently done back in like 21 and 22, like Taft Road, Randolph. Some of those, let's get those filled and maintained.
Sure.
George, I have one more question for you. So if I'm looking at this chart, if our first infusion on that blue line at that 600,000, let's say knocks us up about 0.05-ish on the Pacer across the population, why doesn't that compound over each additional year with $600,000 infusions? Why is that just a one-time step? And then it looks like it actually kind of drifts back down even with the annual infusion on there.
The water main projects.
What do you mean?
Well, the big
Water.
The water main projects helped that big initial boost.
Well, yeah, but
But
I'm
then
saying
it
that.
tightens up.
From the red to the blue, that first step up, that first 600,000, because those dots are on top of each other and was that 25? And then you get that step up in 26. Not the red line, but the red to the blue line. And that makes sense to me that you get that step up with the 600,000 infusion, but why don't we have any other step ups? Because it's almost like that gap of about 0.03 to 0.05 doesn't get better even with annual $600,000 infusions. It's just, I'm trying to understand why in the first year you get that benefit, but then there's no more benefit after that.
In theory, you're adding an additional 600K every year. So
In
it should be
theory,
being
in
a
practice,
consistent improvement. Yeah.
So, I mean, does that show 600,000 every year or 600,000 in the first year?
No, I think it's every year. I just think when you look at the modeling across the whole rating system in the city, I mean, you have other roads that are just continuing to deteriorate over time. And I think it just offsets that benefit. I mean, I can look at it a little closer with our modeler.
I say even in
Yeah, I
deterioration,
understand.
the red line shows deterioration, but I'm not seeing any actual benefit in year 2, year 3, year 4. I would think that at some point the blue line would pull away from the red a little bit over time with
Right.
infusions. It looks like it's flat to down.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
understand.
I'll get you a better
Okay, yeah.
answer for that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to stump you. It's just.
No, I know.
No, it's, yeah,
That's what I'm trying to get at here.
it's the underlying modeling and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that-
So,
I just need help with that.
this is, and I don't know about the others, but I get frequently asked by people about their road segment or their block, right? What about mine? You know what? And it would be really helpful for all that data that was collected. I think this has come up before. It's been a while. The Pacer rating for each of the segments that were evaluated. If that could be put online so that people can look up their roadway and see how their road was evaluated, you know, what the Pacer rating was, and any other information would be great in there, but at a minimum, their Pacer rating.
Like we
So,
just said at the beginning, you're going to soon put this online, maybe
well, this is
the rating and.
Yeah.
Yep. Right.
I think that would help because, well, it would help me because I could refer them actually, or I could look it up for them. Yeah, which is fine as well to look it up quick, but it would be really helpful. And so much work went into collecting that information. Just having it out there, it would be really helpful.
With subject to change, of course.
Right.
not-
Well, this is, no, not, this is, I'm not talking about the funding and when the phasing. It's just, here's your road.
Right.
And here's at this period of time, when this was measured, here's what yours was, right?
Let's see the rating and let them see when it's going to be done.
Right.
It's going to be done.
Yeah.
Yep. Great.
Currently, 2018 is the latest one.
And then they have core samples, but that was selective, right?
So now we can do the updated one in 2026. Good.
Mhm.
Go ahead, George. We keep bothering you.
Any other questions?
Is that it?
With the answers.
That's great. Okay. Is there any other comments on this from those in the audience? Come right up. This is on the roads. This is on the roads. Good.
As a frequent walker around the town, I think it's 4 or 5 times a day or a year or a week, sorry. When you leave Main Street on Hutton and you travel south and you get down to the corner of Hutton and Katy, the radius is extremely severe. That radius has to be, is that in the plan? I couldn't read it all back here. Hutton and Katy, because that radius is so severe. I have seen probably 3, 4, maybe 5 near misses accidents. That radius has to be smoothed out.
Yeah, that would be more of a design condition on the roadway.
Okay, but that's something that someone, I'm sure you have seen this, haven't you? Okay, you shake your head. Yeah, it's dangerous, very dangerous.
Take a look when we do that road, if we, engineer that. Great. Thank you, James. Any other comments from those in council chambers on the roads, going once, going twice? Closing off comments here. Anybody online on the roads?
You have no people on the comment line at this time, Mr. Mayor?
Great. I am going to close off 7B, the OHM road pavement analysis presentation. Thank you very much, Mike, George. We appreciate that. We're going to shift gears and go to public hearings. Number 8 on your scorecard there, Wendy Longpree, the Director of Strategic Planning and Special Projects. And in Northville, we have like 12 special projects. Most cities have like 1 going on. So we keep Wendy very busy on a day-to-day basis. As she's walking up here, we early on had listed 3 major things we wanted to get done in the short term. One was the Randolph drain, and we've gotten funding through the work of everybody up here, about $1.6 million on the Randolph drain. 2 sections, one $800,000, $850, and one $750. That is one area we were working on. I know it's not very sexy. It's behind the scenes. It had to be done. That's a Wayne County, Oakland County Drain Authority. Number 2, we're still looking for a bridge on the second roundabout on 7 Mile and Hines Drive. We are looking for funding. We will get it shortly on one way or another. This first one, I believe we're looking, the third opportunity, no problems. The third opportunity was a new staircase going into Ford Field. Once we built that new ADA entryway, we figured we need a new staircase, and it was so much more expensive than we thought because the foundations are built right on the old football stadium concrete down there. So it's from the ground up. So it's been a great learning experience, and that's what I think the first one you're going to talk about, the $150,000 for that. With that, oh, great one. Tell us about these projects.
Just a procedural question. Do you need to open the public hearing for my presentation, or do you do that after my presentation?
I think I will open it up after.
I think it's probably better to do the presentation first, because then people can talk about it.
To my knowledge, I have always opened up the public comment after the presentation. Okay. Also, General Counsel can confirm.
Super. So I'm going to, you have 3 public hearings in front of you this evening. All of them relate to proposed grants to be submitted to the Department of Natural Resources with the state. The DNR administers a wide range of grants actually related to parks and recreation. Everything from boating grants to forestry grants to park acquisition, et cetera. So we are looking at submitting applications under 2 programs and submitting 2 applications under one of those programs. So the first one I'm going to talk with you about today is the Recreation Passport Grant to replace the stairs in Ford Field Park. Okay, so first of all, just a real brief statement about the Recreation Passport Program. Funds for this program are derived from the sale of the Recreation Passport, and that is the annual permit to get into all of the state parks. So you pay your $10 or $11 each time you register a vehicle if you choose to get the passport, and that goes into a fund that is called the Local Public Recreation Facilities Fund. And it's to be used for the development of public rec facilities by local units of government. Now, this particular fund tends to focus on smaller municipalities because it's supposed to be easier to submit and a little bit cleaner. The reality is it's still a pretty extensive grant application.
And so we'll talk a little bit with each of these applications on the sort of likelihood of funding as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what we're proposing is to submit a recreation passport grant for funds to replace the staircase at Ford Field Park. You'll see a copy here of the 2024 Ford Field Master Plan. And in this plan was the gateway, as well as it was originally envisioned that the gateway and staircase would be sort of combined into one project. And as we looked at the design and engineering for the gateway and the ramp, that just really became not feasible. So now we're looking at the ramp going down Hutton Street and into the park on the north. And then we have this set of stairs that we need to do something with. So next slide, please. Oh, blank. I won't dwell too much on this because we all know these stairs are in just really challenging
And those are the
condition.
foundations of the old football stadium below it. And if you're down on Ford Field, you can see the upper deck and the lower deck where we had to put a new water system for drainage because the drainage on top went through the dirt. That used to be the cement that they left underneath that went down to Ford Field. So if you're in Ford Field, look up. There's a strip of concrete in the middle. That's the upper deck of the old football stadium. We played football there till 1962, and the lower deck. And the opportunity that we've learned, those foundations are just on top of that cement on the stands. So it is not an unbelievably safe staircase. And we thought we'd just redo it, but we couldn't use the foundations. Boom.
Thank you. As the mayor indicated, a number of these upright support structures are kind of secured right to the underlying concrete. Others were not sure how deep they go in the ground in terms of foundations. And so structurally there's challenges here, but also just the condition of the wood. And one of the things that's really challenging with this wood is it's something called true dimensional lumber, which means it actually measures to the exact dimensions. It has not been cured and dried because typically a 2x4 isn't actually 2 inches by 4 inches. It's smaller because it's been cured and compressed, and that hasn't happened with this lumber, so it's a special order. So we can't just go down to Home Depot and get a 2x6 and replace a 2x6 that's in there. So it's really challenging to even repair it at all because of the lumber that's used. So what we are proposing is that we submit a recreation passport grant, and next sheet, please. We'd be looking to remove the entire structure, and our proposal at this point in time is to replace it with, we'd love if we can afford to replace it with a metal structure. And sometimes that makes people cringe, and so I've included here a couple of just representative photos of what those structures can look like. They don't have to look like the galvanized metal, you know, with the pokey things on it to keep people from falling. There's other options for design of those. So we would like to do this in metal. Your costs are over on the right-hand side there. We're estimating a cost of about $300,000. And then we would be asking for $150,000 from the Recreation Passport Program. The reason we're doing that 50-50 split is that's the requirements of the program. It only will fund up to 50% of the project cost. This particular program funds projects like this, though we will have to really spend some time demonstrating that if you can't use stairs, that there is an alternative for you to get into the park, so that this is part of an integral project, that it's not standalone. Next slide, please. The kind of schedule we're looking at is after this public hearing and approval, we'd be submitting the grant April 1st. This particular grant is actually reviewed by the DNR staff and decided on by the director of the Department of Natural Resources. The other grants we're going to be talking about have to be reviewed and recommended from the Natural Resources Trust Fund Board. So this grant from that standpoint goes a little quicker. Once the director approves it, typically the agreements come fairly quickly and then you can get the project project turned around fairly quickly as well. So we would be hopeful that if we're successful, we'd be looking at doing this in the summer of 2027. Now, down below, it gives you an idea of just how competitive this grant is. In 2025, there were 57 applicants, 15 grants awarded. That's a 26% grant award ratio. And in 2024, it was a 27%. So this is going to be a stretch, and it does tend to go to smaller communities, ones that don't have the type of structure that the city of Northville has. So it is a stretch, but you got to try, and it fits within the grant requirements. So that's all I have for the Rec Passport Grant. If you have questions or.
No, and let's open it up for questions here, and then I'll open it up for the public comments on it. Then we'll go to the next one. Any questions on this?
One question for you, Wendy.
Please.
Would the staircase have to go to HDC?
It will have to go back to HDC. We went to HDC to get approval to renovate them. But that approval was over a year past, so it's no longer valid. And if we are looking at, in the end, complete replacement, then that's kind of a different project scope. So it will have to go to the HDC.
I assume there'd be a certain level of ornamentation to it that might affect cost
Not necessarily.
versus.
Not
necessarily.
Not
Kind of like the
necessarily.
second of the two metal.
Yeah, not necessarily. When we would present to them what we thought was, our recommendation and see if they approved it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tone you're probably sensing if you look at those pictures, if we can jump back to that.
Yep.
And I'm not going to
It's
start my
straightforward.
chain link fence rant from a year ago, but the left side does make me nervous with
Yeah.
the standard metal. It is a natural beauty down there in the park, and I'd want to make sure that if we are opening the door to metal, which I understand the longevity and maintenance, and there's a lot of reasons behind that, we'd have to figure out a way to do it in a manner that's consistent with the rest of the park. I would not want it to stick out and become an eyesore when we're spending so much time and effort to beautify the rest of that. So
Yeah. The bottom right isn't too bad.
nope.
That's what I'm asking. That jumps right off
correct.
the page.
Well, the one thing that we're talking about bottom, the beauty of our ugly stairs right now is that they're switchbacked. So that you don't have one segment that's super long. So if somebody does trip, I mean, it's not a fun time for the trip, but it's not. So that one picture showed like a long.
And those are just examples. They could be
Yeah,
different
so
things.
I'm assuming, but I saw that in your write-up, I know you use commas purposefully. It was recommended that a metal staircase be pursued if funding allows. What other, so that infers that there might be cheaper alternatives? Is that what you meant? I wasn't.
What I'm thinking is just a lumber construct could potentially be cheaper than.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's what you meant.
That
So,
that was the assumption I made, though I have not priced those out. I have done.
yeah, and I saw that and I'm like, she's got, because we have not seen, we don't see the grant application itself that would detail some of these things. And that was following that. I have one other question, but.
Go right ahead.
And this is the good news and bad news. I mean, it's been talked about as those concrete stairs that are, were the old seating for Ford Field. That they're a problem for this staircase, but they also help maintain the integrity of that bank. So that's why, when all that reconstruction was done, those are in place. So for this, are they going to be able to leave those in place and then put those foundations in, for the pilings?
I think a lot will depend on the stair design. My preference is that we not pull all that out and destabilize the bank.
Yes, that's.
My preference would be that we find a way to put the stairs in to work around that.
Okay.
You almost have a history marker of those stairs going down because you can see them. I mean, we've talked about that. That seems unique.
Well, in
But
fact,
if we could keep them, yes, it stabilizes the bank, but it's part of history. You put a picture of what it was.
Well, and you can,
I know
when you're standing up near the top, you can, you can look down and see them. So I guess we could clean a little segment up.
One additional Kind of one additional question. So I know today we're approving the grant application, which I fully support.
Yeah.
In terms of the $300,000 total cost, have we, and this was a few months ago that we did that budget from last year. Have we already set aside the 150, or do we need to do a budget amendment at some point to set aside 150,000 to make up that full 300?
Sandy will be running down here right now, even as we're speaking. She's probably watching this. I believe the money is not, did we set aside money for this?
No, it says that the city will be required to allocate 150,000 in the fiscal year 28 budget for the local match.
Okay. All right.
We are looking for private public opportunities if somebody wants to name that staircase.
Yeah, but
We are actually asking about 5 or 6 with a little sign that says supported by ABC.
Sounds like
at
a
the
good
bottom.
comment.
If they're coming in with the 150, there you go.
yeah, funds are, I use the term in my memo.
And consumers, they have different activities. We are looking, no signage, but looking for support on their endowment and their other areas. So we have 5 or 6 opportunities. It's not funded yet.
In the interim, though, I'd assume, I know April 16th, we've got our budget study session. I'd assume this is one that we're going to call out until we identify any alternative funding session.
There is, I use the term in my memo that funds are programmed in the 2028 Public Improvement Fund for this project. So if you look at the forecast, it's identified in there, and it is identified as unfunded.
Here's Sandy. She came running down.
Yeah.
She's growing the money trees. She has all the money in the world for it. Please.
I do love that I ask a question, I can hear Sandy.
Sorry, there's a delay between when you talk and when I hear it. So the 150,000 is not currently set aside. So we will need to look at that as far as we're putting the budget together this month.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
Grow some more money trees. Good. Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions for Wendy before I open it
Now,
up?
last comment was, I know you mentioned this is a stretch, right? And in this ask, but thank you for doing that. I mean, you know, we've said many times how different this is from 4 or 5 years ago. And back then we would say, well, if you don't, they say, well, we don't want to apply for a grant because we don't get any. Well, there's a sure way never to get a grant, and that's never to apply. So if you're stretching, and this isn't a high likelihood, but it's still work because you just don't know. And even if you aren't awarded it, if somebody falls through, you can end up getting rewarded even after you're denied. So thank you for stretching and looking for opportunities all over, and to help us with these projects.
Absolutely.
Good.
Okay.
Any public, and again, we are reaching out to an awful lot of folks to try to support this.
We need to.
Yeah, I'm going to open the public comment, but before we do that, we have to get this done. A public hearing on this. This is a public hearing. So at this point, I am opening up the public hearing. We don't have to vote on that. This is officially the public hearing. Any comments you have for that? No, we have been talking about this for the last 6 or 8 months. We would like to get this done by the end of the year. We're looking for a grant. We are looking for private public donations. We are doing not individually, but different companies and different resources. So we believe it's something we have to get done before our bicentennial, before we have different things down at that park for ingress and egress out of there. So it is more than a want. We believe it's a need. So yes, come right up.
Give it to us.
Full name and address.
Karen Yergolite, 201 North Rogers, and I was on the Ford Field Task Force way back when. You guys probably know this as much as I do, that we pay a lot of attention to all this stuff. I don't think the general public pays that much attention to it. So in my conversations with neighbors, they're surprised at the building of the overview, but they're surprised that the stairs have not been budgeted to be replaced. So I think you're going to get a lot of backlash from the community about the fact that you're going to have this overview that doesn't really get you down there. But the stairs, which have been a disaster for 10 years, have not been replaced. So I think it's a huge priority. I agree with John that I think metal stairs would look awful, considering everything else that looks so lovely in that space. Anyway, that was my 2 cents.
Good. Very good comments. Others? Going once, going twice, closing it off in public, going online.
You have no callers online at this point, Mr. Mayor?
Is there anybody online with? their
Yeah,
hands
you
up on
had,
this?
that was a while ago, was 20 viewers. So.
Okay, but
No one in the comment line at this time.
excellent. So I am looking for, I'm closing it, and then for you up here, I'll ask for a motion that's in your package to go forward. So I'm closing off the public hearing. We had it internally here. Online, you had your comments here. I'm officially closing off the public hearing. I will ask for a motion that's in your package. If
One comment as
Yeah,
I enter
before
in,
that.
just a clarification, because I think a very important point was raised there, and the cadence between the overlook and the stairs themselves was purely a product of budgeting. So the funding that had come from a state allocated budget to the city of Northville that could be spent on that amount versus that wasn't allocated to the stairs. But I agree that is a,
That's it, right?
Right.
I think you were, well, I know we're not in a back and forth, but I would agree completely.
You are
that
correct.
That's a message we need to get.
The entry for the ADA was a little bit more than everybody thought. The Vista was a little bit more. At one time, as I believe Wendy mentioned, not that we're answering it all, but we are. The staircase was kind of built in everything. It was so expensive. We are still looking at that. Yes, I think every one of us, in my opinion, we want that staircase and we want it now. We wanted it first, but that wasn't, the grant was for an ADA entryway. It wasn't a staircase. So that's what we started building on going around there. You're right. You have a 5-0 vote, I think. on
Well,
that.
just, yeah, and just what made it even harder, Wendy put it out for a bid.
Oh,
And nobody would bid on it because the assessment, they wouldn't guarantee, well, they would bid without a guarantee, which made no sense.
because they look,
Because
we
it
might
was,
as well, in that, we put it out, we thought we would rebuild all the wood on that whole structure so it would look new, but the foundations weren't strong enough to hold that. So we had budgeted amount and it was less than this, of course, and nobody would bid on it because of the foundation. So thus, it's a build from the ground up. So you're exactly right. We thought the same thing. It would look brand new in the sense of rebuilding all the things on the same foundations. Couldn't do it. It is an opportunity for Wendy, I believe, one of the 12 projects.
I opened that rabbit hole. I'll be happy to.
But hopefully
make the
that
motion
answers
here.
to you can say yes.
It's all you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right.
Motion.
I move to pass the resolution endorsing an application under the Recreation Passport Program for the staircase at Ford Field Park West and authorize the city manager to sign and submit the application to the Department of Natural Resources.
We have a motion. We have support for the motion. Any other discussion on the motion? Great. I don't think, do we have to go roll call? I think I can do it all. I think it's okay. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Great. Go forward. You have that. Let's get that grant done. Stay close. Number 2, and I want you to be so eloquent that Jim will get all of his questions answered on this 1.06 acres that we're talking about. And I will probably put you on that. If not, if I see there's something that I think Jim wants to know, I will say a couple more words. But why don't you let Jim know and everybody else in the audience about this 1.06 acres.
Okay. What's in front of you today is a proposal to submit a grant to the Department of Natural Resources requesting funds from the Natural Resources Trust Fund to purchase some property. The property in question is 580 South Main Street. It's approximately 1.06 acres. It is currently the location for Inch Memorial, and it is owned by the James Allen Revocable Trust. So this particular parcel is adjacent to the parcel that the city owns, which is part of Northville Commons, the farmer's market site. And so this particular parcel is of interest to the city for a number of reasons. One is the current parcel that the city owns is essentially kind of landlocked. There is an easement across this property to access the property that the city owns, but in purchasing this property, it would gain the city ownership access. The other thing is this property runs, or the new 7-mile pathway runs along the front of this property. And so there's an opportunity to make a connection from the 7-mile pathway over to the Hines Trail and then on up to the Northville River Trail. So there is a trail connection there. And then the third reason to be looking at this property is in this area, any development of the properties, the properties have to retain all runoff on their own properties. So if we do any expansion of the farmer's market, pavement, or anything like that, we need to identify a location where those waters can be held. So in owning this property, it gives us a good deal more flexibility for additional parking, additional natural space. It gives us a lot of opportunities. So that's why to look at this property. A little more information about the Natural Resources Trust Fund as it relates to land acquisition. Oh, actually, we'll go to this one. This shows you the relationship between the two properties. You see in green is the property that the city of Northville owns. Just to the north is the property that the township owns. It's not shown on this particular survey, but you can see then the property in question at 380 South Main Street, and the easement is sort of sketched in there as well. So you can go to the next page. Okay. The reason that you are not offered some specific information on cost in your packet and in the grant application itself is the way that the Natural Resources Trust Fund structures their grant applications as it relates to land acquisition. And what that means is the amount of money that the trust fund will pay for acquisition is determined by the market value of the property at the time of sale. So if we are successful in receiving a grant, we'll need to get an appraisal, and the grant amount will be based on that appraisal value. So at this point in time, in filling out the application, we will be using the appraisal that we have on file with our assessing office. But there's flexibility in that. And so it's a little bit of an unknown. And then properties, if they have an estimated market value over 1.2 million, it requires 2 appraisals. The DNR this program requires a 25% match. And so it covers the acquisition costs as well as incidental costs, which is the appraisal, environmental assessment, closing costs, all of those things. Now, one of the great things about this program and why it makes it so beneficial to use if the property is something you are interested in for recreation lands is the local match can be covered by the seller. If they are willing to accept a reduced cash value for the property, then that can cover the city's local match. So essentially you get the purchase at no cost or just some incidental cost, which is considerably lower than a full cost. So an example here, I just use $1,000 because it's easy to calculate, or $100,000. A property of $100,000 value would require a local match of $25,000. If the seller agreed to accept $75,000 for the property, that difference can be the city's local match, and so you can get that property at no cost. So that's part of what makes this program a great approach. Now, of course, nothing is free. So if you want to go to the next page, there are catches, of course, and things you would need to be aware of. Well, the first one isn't a catch, but 90% of all land acquisition grants are successful with this particular program. So, and I'll show you some more detailed figures on the next slide. So really, if you submit a land acquisition grant, you're almost guaranteed to receive it unless they run out of money. So some of the restriction is the property has to remain in public recreation into perpetuity. So if 5 years from now, the property is valued at $5 million, you cannot go and sell that property. That has to remain for recreation use. The other thing is that it needs to be open to the public within 90 days after you acquiring it, unless you get an exemption from the.
What is open to the public? How is that?
It has to be signed and people have to be allowed to go in and park and access other areas.
But not
of the
inside the
Right, not the
building.
building.
Not
Yeah.
the building.
Okay,
No,
good.
the
Okay.
property.
As a-
And
it's-
that actually gets to the next point, which is any existing structures that are non-recreation uses need to be removed within 90 days of the purchase of the property. Now, the buildings can be adapted for uses such as public restroom or park maintenance. The buildings cannot be used for any indoor recreation purposes. They consider a farmer's market indoor recreation. So that building could not be adapted for a farmer's market, offices, meeting rooms, a wedding, like that. So for the most part, the building's going to have to come down unless we can find a creative way to use it for public restrooms and park maintenance. But when you think about the long-term use of that property, removing hardscape is really what our goal should be. So, but that's something that we'll need to budget for. That leads me a little bit into the process and schedule, because I want to make sure you all know what your options are. So we're doing the public hearing and approval now. We would be submitting the grant April 1st. We would hear in December whether we were being recommended for funding. Anytime between now and December, if we should decide to withdraw that grant, we can, no problem. If we are awarded the grant, it takes the Michigan legislature up to 6 months to approve or allocate that. And frequently, everybody loves this program, but what that means is a lot of times it gets tie-barred to other things that people don't like as much. So the legislature will say, if you approve this, I'm not going to approve this unless you give me money for my airport or whatever. So that can take a while. So we get the grant agreement for approval probably in June of 27. If at that time the city decided it was not in your best interest to move forward, you just don't accept the grant. So, and you've had minimal investment of monies at that point in time. Once you've accepted the grant, you go through the appraisal process, the negotiations with the landowner. And even during that process, if something happens where the landowner isn't willing to do the 25% reduction or something along those lines, you can back out at that time as well. So the reason I'm sharing all this with you is we feel that this is an advisable process to go through at this time. Because it is lengthy, we have time to work out some of the kinks, and there's very little monetary investment right now. The monetary investment really doesn't come until after you've worked a little bit further through this process. As I indicated, in 2025, 88% of the grants that were submitted were awarded. In 2024, 100% of the acquisition grants that were submitted were awarded. So we have about a 90% likelihood of success with this.
Great.
So that's what I have. That's a lot more information than
You got a lot of
we've had
detail.
before.
Hopefully Jim has some, let me just add a little bit and
Mhm.
others can ask questions. We evaluated this 5 years ago too. We looked at the back part of the farmer's market and that we've made arrangements, and we have a seller which is outstanding. His grandfather's is the second picture up there, Mayor Allen up there. They want to do that. That is outstanding for us and what it's evaluated in our agreement. Two, the township is all in to assist on this too. So financially, even if we had to put something, we may not. There is brownfield even available for municipalities that could assist to bring that building down. We've looked at this for years. We have a 5-year first right of refusal on that. We're 2.5 years in. So we're not in a huge hurry. Inch will be there for another 2 years. If somebody might get excited if they have to close by the end of the year, they want to park someplace. We're not excited to close in the next month or two or by the end of the year, but we have evaluated this for 5 years now, and it's getting closer, and we have a lot of agreeable partners, the seller, a partner in the township. Right now, we have 2 properties, one owned by the township, one by the city. We're all going to combine those, and this would be combined sometime. It's for insurance and liability right this second, so we all do it right, and they had a different agreement on there. But all these will be one piece of property. You know, for everybody out there, it is one piece of property, but for right now, insurance, it's 2. This would be part of that. That 3 will combine into one land consortium. That will do. Maybe another one in the future. We'll see. So that answers some of the questions. Maybe for Jim. I'm sure he'll come up and give us some opinions. Others here. So just to add to what Wendy said, that is knowledge. I think that was enough, right? So most of that was public knowledge. Good. Go ahead.
I don't see much negative about this one.
No.
Parking between like some examples of what we could do. Lots of parking for the farmer's market. Is that what?
Farmers market and other activities at the commons area.
And the timing doesn't bother me because that will give you tons of time to plan for, you know, for what, it sounds easy, but gotta make it interesting too. I like it.
So
Others.
I'll add, so I got to be a part of this back in 2020 when I was chairing the Farmers Market Task Force. And when we were developing initial site plans, it was a major opportunity for the site plan if you had parking ingress and egress off of both 7 Mile and Northville Road. What that allows you to do to the entirety of the property is extraordinary in terms of how you get in and get out and traffic flows. Like what you would see on 7 Mile right now, you have both ingress and egress and the parking lots in front. All of that can be adjusted and make it a lot more efficient. And we always thought that that was the long-term plan. And to see what you're pulling here forward, it's extraordinary. And one of the first families we met with, it had to be in spring of 21, was with the Allen family. And there's no better family in this community. They're wonderful examples of what it means to provide generational legacy gifts and to work with the city towards every generation in a perpetuity, having that site to call home for the permanent farmers market. So I couldn't be more enthusiastic about what you're doing here to have the multiplier effect. If you have the $1 million property or whatever it is when this hits, and our share of this could be under 6 figures, would be absolutely extraordinary, depending on how this plays out, because of the relationships that the mayor's built with everybody as a stakeholder. It's like, Wendy, I tip my hat to you and to the mayor and to the Farmers Market Task Force. This is something we've been trying to do for 6 years. So this is a great night for this. So thank you.
It is. Others.
Member Kren served as the chair of the Farmers Market Task Force and put a lot of time and effort into this. It's exciting to see that coming to fruition, because it was always envisioned that you needed this as well to create a proper ingress and egress. And so that future state vision is really coming together. Obviously, great if we can get it from a land value perspective of somewhere between 75 and 100% reduction in price, leveraging the grant, and then any discount if it is acquired below the appraised value. The one thing that I would like to see, and I know we have until December, so we've got some time to pull it together, don't necessarily need it tonight, but is an estimate on the demo of that building. What's that going to cost? If we think there's any environmental costs associated with cleanup of that site. I don't know if we'll be able to use a brownfield in the same manner that we did for the Riverwalk, because we're not going to have tax dollars to offset. So we should start just looking ahead at what are the potential costs that we could see coming just to prepare the site so that it could be integrated with the farmers market. But overall, I mean, that's going to be the case in any land you acquire to try to establish a farmers market, and it fits the plans perfectly. So.
Well, just concur with what I just heard, and this is really adds a lot of value to the making that an L, if you think of it as a big L, you know, coming from 7 Mile and then over that way. Even despite the limitations on what can be used on that site, not for indoor recreation, there are still a lot of things that it can be used for, in addition to parking and some green space and that access into, and it opens up the other 2 properties that, while they're distinctly different properties, ours and the townships, they function as one. They will function as one. So it really just changes opportunities within that whole section of space. So, and the Allen Trust, I'll just shorten it to that, and the family has been so patient throughout all of this. If I think back in how long they had to wait to go on for that, what the parcel we ended up purchasing, they, as opposed to the other parcel, which was much more difficult. They were just amazing and patient, considerate. You know, the first conversations to the last were consistent. And so, again, we thank them if they're willing to be patient with this and your creativity in pulling this packet together. I think this is just a win-win.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see what staff.
I'm
has.
going to open up officially this. Again, this is a gavel that Mayor Allen, almost 75 years ago, used here. So the family, we had meetings in here and they appreciate, they're Northvillians and they want to get this going. We appreciate their patience, as Barbara has mentioned, and just dealing with Andrew and the entire team for the farmers market area. So with that, I'm officially going to open up the public hearing. If anybody, Jim, if you have anything that you want to share with us, it's not a Q&A, but 2 minutes to share on the public hearing of this. This is the official area.
A lot of questions were answered.
Good.
Yes.
Excellent.
I still have a couple.
Super.
When you say this parcel was landlocked, I can drive right to it. I mean, I don't understand where the landlock was.
Our parcel in the back.
The parcel in the back.
Right.
You mean just go right in?
Township has the front. It's really not landlocked.
It's not landlocked.
It's all one, but so
No.
that is, I believe, the
It's
definition.
As long as the relationship with the township continues, because we don't own both parcels. So it's not landlocked if we can use the township's land.
It's
And I assume you could.
legally,
Yeah.
it's
Anyway.
legally landlocked. Yes.
Okay. And then I see on the map that the right-of-way did not go all the way to Sheldon, or to Northville Road. Is that just a?
That's what was on the.
That's what, on the survey? Okay.
I believe theoretically, there's 30 feet of easement on both those businesses, but that's what it is. So that's what we're using right now.
Okay. Then, and I think this is hopefully just a typo. On one document, you show 967,354 or 345. And on the budget impact, you say the current value is 947,345. Which is it?
Sounds like a typo.
Sounds like a typo to me,
Yeah.
right?
Wendy has those documents because that's.
More
not in our
importantly, says here, if the value falls below the trust's minimum value, what is that? What is the minimum value?
So I know we don't have to answer all, but
Those questions maybe.
Just a question.
I'll get all the question. I got it. We
If it-
have that and it is.
If it falls below the minimum value, then the city would be responsible for the local match. I don't know what the minimum value is. That's undefined at this point. So I have a question on that.
And wrap it up.
Oh my God, that was
We're
too,
done.
that was too quick.
I know.
Seriously, am I done?
We will get all those questions answered for you and we might even put them in writing for you tomorrow.
We can also get your email and you can ask us the
Yeah.
questions and we can answer them for you.
Email
We're not-
that or
we're not,
text me
you know,
tomorrow or tonight and we'll get every
I
answer.
feel sorry for her. She's got to do this grant
I
application.
know. It's
And
tremendous.
I'm telling you, from what I've heard her say, this is off the record.
That's not all right.
Might still go,
I
Jim.
You pass a resolution, there's no numbers. It's maybe there's a consideration of 25% the owner.
Yep.
That's.
I think you're going to find it's very favorable to what the owner is working with. Everything should be favorable from what was negotiated 5 years ago. Excellent. Any other comments for those in the audience here? This is a public comments on it, going once, going twice. Closing off public comment here. Is there any hand raisers on this in the audience? Ken?
None at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we have like probably 25 or 30 people online.
You know what? I
I know.
can't check when I'm sharing screen for the
That's okay.
presentations.
It usually builds as the meeting goes, so good.
After we're
you.
done sharing, I can go back.
Okay, I'm closing off public comment on this.
Public hearing.
Public hearing, public comment on the public hearing. You know, we are closing off the public hearing as I opened it correctly and I'm closing it correctly. There is a motion in your package for
Can we-
this to go forward.
For the record, can we get one point of clarification
Yeah.
from Wendy? We've got the 967 and the 947 numbers, so which is it? And 20,000, it's just for accuracy, because relatively speaking, it doesn't matter, but
Okay, 947
Since it
and
came up,
967.
Good point.
I'd have to look in my file and see what it
Okay.
says on the appraisal.
but it's
Change it to
subject to
that.
change anyway.
Right.
So for our purpose here, that's why we don't have numbers in
Right.
there, because
We don't.
the actual getting, as long as we're in the ballpark,
So
which
that
we
shouldn't
are,
change the motion.
because we're basically, yes.
Yes.
And so Wendy, yeah, that number will not play into any future action. That is a reference value.
That's a
And we
reference.
probably can't shoot that straight on $20,000. Point well taken, but that won't be the number that is used
Correct.
when the grant's applied in 16, 18 months or whatever would be
Yeah.
correct.
Correct.
It was only a fair point for
No, it's
clarification.
absolutely a
Yeah.
fair point.
No, thank you.
And then the reason why the recommended motion doesn't have numbers is this is ultimately for approval to pursue the grant. There's no contract, there's no valuation, so you're not gonna see any of that in there.
Right.
We'll see that eventually.
Are you in a position where you can speak to, we'll call the reserve price from the Allen Foundation?
I can, if I'm okay to speak in a public
Sure.
meeting on that. I'm a little uncomfortable
Yes, I
speaking
think
in a
so. I
public
think we
meeting.
should.
Let's not say it on.
Yeah.
It's kind of related to
It's all
negotiation.
positive on what's been evaluated years ago.
Yeah.
It should be win-win for everybody.
And they've been so
Yeah.
great.
They have been extraordinary.
We'd say it, but that's private with them right now,
Okay.
and they wanted
No,
to do
thank you,
it.
Mayor.
So great.
Some moves on the
Yeah.
appraisal.
Thanks.
Excellent. So I'm looking for a motion. You have a sample motion. in your packet?
Mayor, I move to approve the resolution endorsing a Natural Resources Trust Fund application requesting funds to purchase the 1.06 acres located at 580 South Main Street, adjacent to Northville Commons, also known as the Farmers Market site, for the proposed purpose of providing public recreation.
So we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion?
I'll support.
Okay, we have support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Boom.
Thank you,
Go for it.
Wendy.
You have one more, so don't go anyplace, Wendy. So now the third area, we're looking for a trust grant application for Ford Field East. You see a big old check back there. We got $1.2 million from SEMCOG to start the whole process. We would like a little bit more to make it perfect, and we believe we have a strong opportunity for this, and why don't you tell us the rest?
All right. This proposed grant application is also a Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application. This is for the development aspect of the funds as opposed to the acquisition aspect. We are looking for monies to supplement the TAP grant that we have already received to extend the river trail through Ford Field East. You see here the 2024 master plan for Ford Field, and it's a little challenging to see, so we are going to go to the next slide here. But it shows a trail going all the way through that particular park. That's okay. You can go to the next one. These are photos showing the existing condition of the park. As you come in, there is a kind of two-track that you can drive on, and then or most people walk, though, that is used as an access to monitor some of the different areas of the site. So as you come down in, there's an open lawn area. There is a section of the Rouge River, but through here it's wider, and so it really looks like a pond. As you look off in the distance on the one photo, you can see the abutments for the spillway, which next screen, please. You can see the spillway on the lower right-hand side, and then, I'm sorry, lower left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side is a retaining wall to hold back the bank and help define the edge of the river. Next slide, please. Then if you're looking at this property from the water wheel site, there is an open lawn area. And then what I call, it's Ford Field South, Mayor, you have another name for
Ford
that.
Field East. Oh, South Main
No,
Park.
South Main
Yeah,
Park.
South Main Park used to be a park until
You-
1962 that
You see
we
South
cut
Main
400
Park
buckthorn
there.
trees down from.
Okay, next slide. We recently had a natural features inventory done of this park, and it provided us some great information about the park. There were no threatened or endangered species identified in this assessment. There were 9 different notable trees, as you see listed there, and the area was divided into 5 terrestrial units. While there isn't any, threatened or endangered species or anything like that, there are some areas where there's still some good quality, native landscaping, and those notable trees are of considerable size. As we look at the next slide, this is the proposed trail route. And this trail route avoids almost all of those notable trees. There is one on the lower, smaller bridge that it's unclear at this point in time what the impacts will be to that tree because this is a schematic layout. These are engineered drawings. But what we're looking at here for the trail extension is construction of 1,200 linear feet of 10-foot wide asphalt pathway, installation of 2 bridges. One is 160 foot long, one is 60 foot long, and then 2 pedestrian crossings, a pedestrian crossing across Main Street as well as one across Griswold Street on either end. With those pedestrian crossings, that sets this section of the trail up to connect to a trail extension that we're hoping to do through the Foundry Flask property. And it also connects this trail to Ford Field West, and then from there on through the gateway and to our downtown. So this is a key component to starting to put together some of the different pieces of our river trail. A couple of things to mention with regard to this particular route. What we have been talking about in the past is showing the trail running parallel to the railroad tracks there and then crossing lower more to the south and with just one bridge. There's a lot of issues with that particular route. First of all, the railroad company owns the land. It's not a right-of-way. And so we would need, and there isn't enough room to put the trail in there on property that is not owned by the railroad company. They're very challenging to negotiate with, and for the most part, unless we wanted to spend 4 years, kind of arguing with them, it really is unlikely we'd get permission to go through their land. Then there also was one of the pictures you saw was some metal, some steel pilings going down into the ground. Those are a real clear border that makes it challenging to do any kind of engineered trail or surface through there, so we need to avoid that. We also have some permitting issues with floodway versus floodplain, and so we're trying to negotiate the bridge locations to work within in those as well. And then we had a layout initially that had that 160-foot bridge considerably shorter. But after having some discussions with the owners of the water wheel property, we were not able to reach a point where they were comfortable with us coming across their property with an easement. And so we have made some adjustments in that route to minimize the impact to the water wheel property. And we will continue discussions and negotiations with them. So you've got the longer bridge and then the second bridge as well. And this particular route ticks a lot of the boxes when it comes to all those different parameters that we need to deal with. So next slide, please. What we have at this point in time is an estimate of probable cost of 2.7 million, which if that doesn't give you sticker shock, I don't know what will. So the big expense there is that real long bridge, the 160-foot bridge, 1.3 million. And we just don't know that we've got a huge amount of flexibility there. The shorter bridge is a good deal, less expensive. Then we have money in there for easements, landscaping and furnishing, some what I'm calling safety lighting. It will be some lighting, but I want to make sure people know that, you know, it's not going to be lit up like a Meyer parking lot. It's really just intermittent lighting to keep any trail users safe. The 2 pedestrian crossings, and that comes out to plus engineering 2.7 million. We're looking currently at a TAP grant of 1.2 million. We're requesting $400,000 from the Natural Resources Trust Fund. That is the maximum grant amount. We can't go higher than that. They require a 25% local match. I think we can get there with this particular budget. So currently that leaves us with a local contribution of needing to be 1.1 million. As I indicated in our staff memo, there are not those funds available currently. So what we're proposing is, again, from a timing standpoint, we'd like your support to submit the grant. And then during now and when the grant gets evaluated, that 6-8 months that we have, we're going to talk further with our engineers, talk some with TAP. We think there may be an opportunity to increase funding from TAP. So we're going to hit the design a little harder and see if we can figure out a way to try and reduce those costs. But we hate to postpone submitting this grant another year while we're figuring that out. So again, from a timing standpoint, which I think the next slide talks a little bit about this, we'll have about an eighth month timeline here in which we can try and figure some of those things out. And before we have to accept the grant, and even after accepting the grant, if we just reached a point where we couldn't do it, we could turn it down. But I hate to lose that 1.2 in TAP funds. Because the costs aren't going to go down. So we think this is kind of our best shot at this point in time of trying to get as much funds as we can for this project.
Timing on the next.
Before we go there, if you could go back, I did want to let you know the success rate here. It's better than Rec Passport, but not as good as land acquisition.
100%.
So about 72% of the grants were awarded in 2025 and about 60% in 2024. So you're looking at about a 70% success rate. I've had pretty good record with this particular fund source, but with our social economic numbers, we're going to have to work real hard at trying to, because you get extra points there, we're going to have to work hard at recouping those points in other areas. So we're going to give it a good shot. Next slide, please.
If you don't, one really quick, I know we've hit the local match / contribution. What's the required local match percentage again?
For Natural Resources Trust Fund, it's 25%. So.
And then TAP was.
And the TAP requires an 80%.
Right.
But the thing with TAP is engineering costs can't be included in that. Engineering costs are not eligible. So, you know, we've been doing this kind of playing with numbers to try and figure out just how much we could ask for from TAP. And so I've asked OHM to look into that a little bit. And so we're going to talk some about that. Which reminds me, we do have George Sokoff here with OHM. Him and his team have spent a lot of time helping us get to this point with the design. And he's here to answer any questions of a more technical nature than what I've outlined.
Yeah,
So
on that point, so, sorry about this, George, but so the engineering relative to the construction costs, I did that from that other chart. It's like 19%, but I don't know what that include, like that seems high. But I don't know what's all included in that, but
it's actually, and George, I'm going to speak for you, but then I'll let you contradict me. That's actually kind of low in this
for this one, that's what I wanted to.
Because TAP requires, I believe they require full-time construction supervision, right?
Well, I guess one thing to note is it's design, preliminary engineering all the way through construction.
That was my note on here asking.
Typically, that's 20 to 25% for all the different phases.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if the pre-engineering, which we need just to get to this point, that had to be adjusted because the bridges, many other things, was included in this versus just the final engineering and oversight.
Yeah. I
So
think
that's,
all the
so
way
if somebody's
through.
looking at that number, it looks higher than you might see if it was final and oversight,
Yeah.
with the added caveat from what Wendy said, that it could, in addition, require more on-site supervision because of the grant requirements. So it's,
Yeah, typically for MDOT LAP, which it would be if it goes through SEMCOG, you know, they require full-time inspection. The design is typically in the 8 to 10% range. Construction is typically 15 to 17%, depending on the type of project.
And we are still investigating with the owner. You can see the big cost if you look at the numbers. 150 feet long bridge. Down at the Downs, those are $250,000 bridges. 150 feet bridge out of metal is a huge expense. That's something we didn't think we had to do $1.3 million worth of bridge. We are still discussing with the owner. It's doable, but it goes on his property then. So that is something, and we're looking at other partnerships and different funds available right this second. Yes, it's a little bit more than we thought. We're getting ready for the next generation. If you look at the whole thing, just talked about Ford Field. This is Ford Field East, 4.2 acres or what have you. And then we got DT spending $2.5 million in their little section of the Riverwalk, and down at the Downs, 15 million. We are trying to get this done on as economical area as possible. We still have one opportunity left on the 5 stretch.
well, and just for this particular owner.
Yep.
Is also very considerate.
Oh, yeah, he is.
So this was, so this is not a matter of, I don't want you on our property. That isn't it. There's windows and tenants, and it's a little more complicated. So that's.
So it is not.
So
done.
again,
He
he's
wants
great.
to work with us, so we have a great relationship, and we're still going to see if we can do maybe another area in a bridge for $750,000, save $500,000 or something like that. But we're still working at it. It's the right thing to do. We're looking at the future, getting ready for all of our kids in the next generation. It's quite exciting when you see the 5 sections that are being worked on, and then next year or so should be all done.
And I know, Wendy, you mentioned trying to squeeze it in there on the railroad side. It's not only the right of way that's an issue, but you have that sheet pile wall. We looked at possible options of cantilevering off the sheet wall, running it behind the sheet wall. We have tiebacks. You know, the sheet pile is not designed for some other load on top of it. You know, it's designed for overturning. So we really evaluated any way we could.
Been a lot of options to get
Squeeze it
across
there,
that body of water.
Or go across the dam. Obviously, there's dam regulatory issues.
Right.
Building a boardwalk in the water.
Say dam. Can you say that?
Not at a meeting.
Concrete dam, yeah.
Yes.
You know, building boardwalk in the water is not viable because of all the floodplain, floodway requirements.
Right. We appreciate all the work and the
Tough
different
spot.
alternatives that we're looking through. We're still working it. Thank you, Wendy, for this should be the one project you're working on, but you have 11 or 12 other ones. We appreciate that. And George, thank you. We're trying to keep you busy. Any other questions before I open up to the public on this?
I had
Go.
2 other items. One is that, remember when the Riverwalk Task Force began putting the plan together? It was back in 2020, and people were like, what's Ford Field East? Because it wasn't, it's not accessible. I like going, like, there's a picnic table there and just hang out. Some people fish, and I just hope they don't ever eat those fish, but it's really delightful. But and so this coming to vision and fruition, which happened with the master plan and on, is really wonderful. I know, Wendy, you've heard me talk about this before. One thing that I believe can increase our odds in this, you know, going in, is that this is a remediated Superfund site. So I know it's not in any of the documents here. We have a natural features assessment for Michigan State, and we don't have an unnatural features assessment. But in this particular case, it is limited on how this land can be used. So bringing a remediated Superfund site back up for recreational use is, I think, gives us a leg up. So like I said, I didn't see it in any of these documents, but we're not seeing the application. But again, Jennifer Maud has all of those documents. If OHM needs any, she had obtained them from the site, several years ago, from the state several years ago, on everything that was done and what can be done. So if you need any, she has that. So I think it could help.
Thank you.
Others?
This is a tough one for me because between the price, working with the railroad, trying, going around that, and then the landowner, we're unsure. You could talk me into it, but I just don't know at that price that this is something that is a need.
Yep. It's quite a wand right now. They've talked for generations on a pathway next to our river. We're almost there. We have maybe 4 of the 5. We have to get that. We're funding. It's creeped up more than we thought, the bridges, but so I see where you're coming from. We will still probably working in the next 60 days to find ways to get some of that money for the bridge or a smaller bridge and for other areas. But yeah, it is exciting. It's a great opportunity too, at the same time.
And I do think to Wendy's earlier point, your concern is that this does give us more opportunity to continue to try to solve the problems. If we step back now, we're not going to do it. If we keep moving forward, we can get more money potentially from TAP plus the 400,000.
Yep.
If there's some re-engineering, they can bring the price down perhaps. I mean, it's getting us within range of making it work. So I think it is worthwhile to keep moving forward. And I think you'd agree that it is worthwhile to keep moving forward. And it's a good possibility that we'll be able to find something to make it work, but it's not a guarantee. I mean, it is $1 million is a big gap. But
the other assumption I would have is that and part of where I was going on the local match contribution, because that is a to be determined number. We're trying to estimate the total cost of the project and then back into what is that amount that isn't going to be covered by 2 grants. That would come before us again. So we would have another opportunity to look at a final number after we've gone through this process where we could challenge if we felt like it was a want versus a need at that stage as well. So
It's but it does say that it's an obligation. The city is obligated.
The wording in the resolution is the wording that the DNR provides to us. So that's how they like it to be structured. And so it does say, and make available the financial obligation during the fiscal year 28-29 season. So it does say that in the resolution. And I think the reason they do that is they want people to know just what the potential obligation is. But if you don't go through with the grant, if you don't accept the grant in the end, then that's a non-issue. So it becomes an issue when you go to accept the grant. And then those numbers could be, a good deal different.
We have all the way to the end to say no. Maybe we get it all. We get all the money. We still can't afford it. Got to say no.
And it'll come back to us one more time.
That's correct. Yep. This is just to keep the.
Yeah, I'll say this, even though I may kick myself about it. It'll come back to you at least one more time because we do hear in about September what our preliminary scores are. And given those preliminary scores, you can generally get a good idea of whether you'll be recommended for funding or not. So sometimes there are changes that need to be made at that point in time that need to come in front of you. So it's quite likely you'll see it again. All 3 of these actually potentially you'll see again in, like I said, September. And then there would be, you'll hear in December about the grant. And so there's several steps before you're actually needing to sign on the dotted line.
Okay.
So I think my concerns are already covered, right? Yeah, that 1 million that's a big number. But we have time and tonight's only about the grant application and I'm all for applying for the grant and let's keep stringing the pearls together and knock that number down as much as possible. So I'm all for the action here tonight.
Yeah.
Anybody else? So now
I
this
do,
is,
Mayor, if I could make one more
Please do.
statement. I want to be clear. I don't mean to imply that the property owners of the water wheel have been non-responsive
Yep.
or not.
They've been great. Yep.
They are amazing.
Yep.
I've
Yeah.
met with
Trying to
them a
balance
number
their
of times.
people that.
They have to think about what works best for them, and I completely respect that. That's why we talk to them. And so I just wanted to make sure you all were clear. That
Yeah.
was not what I meant.
That was
They've
what I
been
wanted
great
to
partners
convey.
for the city, great partners on this project. They want it to happen. We just have to try to make it happen. Good. Now I'm going to open up, this is the public hearing officially. If you have any comments on this piece of property, this would be the time. Anybody in here? Going once? Come right up to the mic. Full, and again, all these things, taxes haven't gone up for anything we've talked about tonight. It's almost unbelievable.
Very simple. Keep negotiating
Oh, I know.
with the water wheel. There's tremendous savings there on a shortened bridge, and you can see it on the
You
map.
can see it. That is the
Please
difference
do that.
right there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Another.
Thank you, Jim.
Wendy, you got another comment?
Yep. We will have him, the group in here, and they're great friends of the city, any of us. Yes.
So I'm Celia Larson, 221 South Rogers Street. I was very excited about this project and read the MNFI, the Michigan Natural Features Inventory report, and was excited to go and look at all the landmark trees that are there. I'm a little bummed about, not a little, I'm sad that we might lose that 51-inch cottonwood. 51 inches is
Big.
It's not small,
Yeah.
right? This is truly a landmark tree, and cottonwoods are very important. Jim Porterfield has seen a bald eagle and one of the other cottonwoods right on that property that he sent us a picture of. Bald eagles use these trees all the time.
Right.
They're tall, they have big branches that they can actually build their nests in. Also, some of our owl species will also use this. And most importantly, these cottonwoods, I know some people don't like the fluff. It's only the female trees. There are actually different male and female trees in cottonwoods. Only the female trees that makes the fluff. I don't know if that big one is male or female. We don't need to get into that. But
Not looking.
we don't want to be misogynistic about our removals. So anyways, if it would be possible to save that tree, I think it would be really important, especially for the riparian aspects of it also. These cottonwoods are meant to be along rivers. They are meant to hold that riverbank. They are meant to filter our stormwater. And so it is the right tree for that particular spot. And so if there's a way to shorten the bridge, save some money, save the tree, I would recommend that. Also, it's considered a keystone species for our area, which that means that there are many different species of wildlife that feed on cottonwoods. There's over 250 species of caterpillars that then feed all the little birdies. So thanks.
And I'm going to put in a plug as she's too modest. Celia is a botanist.
Yep, absolutely.
Quite a few of them. So thank you so much for everything you do to help the city.
I know we had a meeting this afternoon. We have saved 9 of the trees. We are still looking. Can we place the bridge one place or another? Jim and I were involved with the other cottonwoods, which were not as healthy, that were taken down right by the river. And we took all the trees except those. We had to have those taken down. Jim and I took most of those trees down, but that absolutely, if we can, we saved 8 or 9 of them. That is one. We're looking. Can we move the bridge? So it's not done yet, so we had a meeting this afternoon on that subject. Appreciate you coming. I thought you might.
So much about trees that I sat here for 2 hours.
I know. I really appreciate that. It's all the Girl Scouts and everything else. You know, a lot of stuff. Nancy, we were having fun.
Nancy Darga, 516 North Center Street. I have also been sitting 2 hours at home watching the video, but it won't allow me to respond or raise my hand or anything, just to let you know, which is why your 20-some people probably aren't responding, is they're doing what I did, trying to figure it all out. Anyways, I'm here to say that the Northville River Restoration Task Force supports going for that grant. We can't gain any ground unless we open the door and at least see what we can happen. In terms of the cottonwood, given that we are spending so much time and money on a bicentennial celebration, it would be a tragic shame that the one thing we've got on this site that is a bicentennial tree would be taken down. So I think, like this gentleman said, let's keep talking to Rick. If there's options, he can donate the land, take a tax credit, not go to an easement type situation. We can squirrel the bridge around. And I want to know that don't stop until, I don't want to have to chain myself to a tree. But
understand.
anyways, thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry I can't stay.
Okay.
I've got 2 young children I'm watching
got
tonight.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Good. Jim, would you like to say anything? Yeah. Come right up as the tree champion of the world. No running in here either. Thank you.
Jim Porterfield, founder of Northville Tree Champions, address 46950 Timber Lane, Northville Township, west of town. So we've been talking for quite a few minutes about what I refer to as the Henry Ford Cottonwood. That tree probably was there. I think we may even have photographic evidence.
I think we do.
Of Henry Ford hanging out around that tree. There are ways to save trees.
There are 1919.
There are ways to, there are techniques to save trees when construction is done. Typically, if you can just restrict your work to say one side of the tree, that is a big thing. And also, if all the feeder roots are, within about 18 inches. So if you can say the tree was right there, we got to do our construction work there, but keep all this free. We don't have any traffic going over it. So. But yeah, a friend of mine saw that bald eagle flying down Center Street, and then he went to the Cottonwood, the Henry Ford Cottonwood. Thank you.
You can see we are going to try to do everything for that cottonwood. I've known it. I've put my arms around it. I've been down there. The other ones were in poor shape. That is in healthy shape down there. So good. Any other comments in the council chambers? Seeing none. You can see if there's any, she said she can raise her hand.
There are no other callers at this time, Mr. Mayor, but that is my cell phone that I just.
You just did it.
So I just tested it. It is working correctly.
Okay. You can't just hit your computer. You got to call in on a number, and we went through that. Why don't you tell them one more time how to do it?
Yeah, real quickly, anyone that's watching this at home that would like to make a public comment, there are instructions on the agenda. You just call the toll-free number. You enter the meeting ID, and then we'll let you in the room and we'll take your question or your comment.
Great. So we did test it. You can go on, you can make a comment. You have to listen how to do it. And the instructions are there when you go on there. So we've tried to make it easy. We've had to do this because of early on some security issues of people getting in meetings. So it's just you had to touch one more button than you used to, but all is okay. That's good. So I don't see anybody raising their hand. Do you confirm that online? Any, again? No?
Let's see, right? That was me.
That's you. Okay, good. I just want to make sure. I see that. I want to make sure. Okay, so go ahead. No, you have no minutes. I appreciate that. So I'm closing off public comment online for the public hearing here. With that, you have a motion in your package to go forward. And this is, again, keeps it going. So no, this isn't a one and done. They'll probably be in front of us 2 more times. If we find this is a great want, some of us think it's a need, but it's a want. We have a couple more times. If we have no money to do that, we haven't raised taxes to do this. We keep finding funds through your council members up here. We've found $17.5 million worth of grants in the last couple of years, so we don't have to raise taxes. So we can do these things generationally for the city. So with that, I'm looking for the motion that's in your package or something like that.
I'll take it. I move to approve the resolution endorsing a Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources for $400,000 to extend the Northville River Trail through Ford Field East.
Support. So we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion on this motion? I think we can do this. Say it loudly one way or another. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay. Let's go forward. Let's get some more money. Let's talk to Rick Cox, which is a great person for Northville. Great. So we are through 9. We go to 10. We're winding down. It's unbelievable. Mayor and council communications. Tim.
We got new business.
New business. I
You skipped
forgot.
9.
This is
Number
geez, I'm
9.
so excited, like we were done. You know? Sorry about that. These are support. Yeah, we haven't got to new business yet, but there's 3 quick ones. No pressure. New business consideration of second reading adoption of amendment article 21 on signs. Tell us about that. Boy, I got really
Good
excited.
evening, Mayor, council members. This
This
should be quick. It's the second reading and adoption of the amendment to the sign ordinance. We discussed this at your last meeting when you approved the introduction and first reading. Nothing has changed since that time other than some technical and clerical edits that I discussed with Councilmember Moraski Brown. They're really punctuation related, formatting, nothing that changes the intent or the substance of the document. There is a motion in your packet to approve the second reading and adoption.
Okay. Any questions before I'm going to ask any public comment?
Just a clarifying comment is this is to become compliant with First Amendment from Supreme Court. And we'll probably be revisiting this writ large at another time. So it'll be a couple kicks at the can. That's right.
That's correct.
Right.
Thank you. Just for those who haven't heard.
Yep. Supreme Court has overrules our local motions. Right.
Yeah, and to punctuate, it is a monster of an ordinance, so we look forward to being revised at some point, but very much appreciate getting in compliance with the law, as well as refreshing some things that were in there that were just easier versus a wholesale restructuring. So thank you.
We are trying to look at all of our ordinances. Some are 50, some are 100 years old. We are going through every ordinance. It is a great opportunity to do that, but the Planning Commission and Justin is looking at the most important ones first and getting through all of them. So they'll be modern in the next year or 2 or so, won't they? Good. Any other comments, clarifying questions for Justin? Okay. Any comments from those? Please, Lenore, come right up.
Lenore Lewandowski, 119 Randolph Street. So I was at the Planning Commission meeting when this was brought up, and I went back to refresh my mind about what happened. And just for your knowledge, when I went back to look at the minutes that are posted on the website, it says February 3rd, 2025. So we need to correct that.
Justin will tomorrow. I can see it. Good.
All right. So again, I understand the need to make the sign ordinance in compliance with the current constitutional standards, and also to add some clarification in terms of the current ordinance. One concern that came up from Planning Commission was whether lighting that called attention to a business was considered a sign. And so Mr. Cagliata indicated that this concern was probably addressed by our illumination standards, but I would like to just ask city officials to work with businesses on this issue. We already have at least one business or one instance where business has substantial lighting that kind of illuminate part of its building and property. So I think that's something that we need to think about. And as we go forward with this ordinance, the sign ordinance, and maybe eventually adding more to it or adding to our lighting standards, that is addressed so that we don't have a lot of lighting that's proclaiming either open, 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 or whatever it is, where it's the lighting becomes a sign. All right, that's it.
Thank you. And we have added an ordinance manager that goes around that works for the city and works directly for Justin. So we've tried to add that too. Good. Anybody else on this ordinance? Okay. Anybody online on that? I know you tested it. Your hand's gone now again.
Yeah, there are no callers on the comment line. And to add to that, you had about 70 online watching.
Excellent. Outstanding. Okay. So with that, I am closing off the public comment on this. This is not a public hearing. This is public comment on this tonight, to my knowledge. Any other questions? If not, or comments, I'm looking for a motion to go forward. This is for the second reading adoption of the amendment to Article 21 on the zoning ordinance on signs. So,
Mayor, I move to approve the second reading and adopt the ordinance amending Article 21 signs of the zoning ordinance.
so we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion?
Support.
Super. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Excellent. You have the first one. Go up. You are number 2, consideration second reading of the chapter 42 for HDC fees. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So this was also approved for introduction at your last meeting. Just a clarification that was made to the text that the resubmittal of an application is what is exempt from the fee. And again, this change to the ordinance aligns with your adopted fee schedule.
Right. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And you made minor changes from last time to this time. Right.
Yeah. Same intent and effect of the ordinance, just the wording changed slightly to clarify.
I mean, just to clarify that, so the change in the updated language is no fee shall be charged for the resubmittal of an application that the HDC has referred back to the applicant. In my mind, HDC is meant to benefit all of our residents, not to be a costly or painful process, but to create an environment that benefits all homeowners. And so I think that helps to achieve that objective. And I think it also promotes proactive behavior, providing as much feedback as we can beforehand to try to avoid having to ask people to come back multiple times. So I think it is an important step forward.
Great. So any other
Yeah,
clarifying questions?
there was some redlined items on here from before where the ordinance was changed. Some things have been handled where they were switched to administrative, so it wasn't the application fee anyway for a full application.
That's correct.
Yes, so they're being crossed out, but that to a large part, well, I don't know, it depends on their color change. But other than that, the rest was re-roofing or minor classes of work. Those had already been moved to administrative approval, so you didn't need the application.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Yep. Any other questions for those up here in council? Great. All right. Any comments from those in the audience? Anyone? Good. All right.
I can
Motion.
I can take this one. I move to approve the second reading and adopt the ordinance amending chapter 42, article 2, section 25(3) of the Code of Ordinances.
Support.
So we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have one more, and this is kind of a twofer. Are you introducing or is Pat? So this is more of a financial, I know everybody is here for the Vector truck. That's what they're here. You've been waiting the whole time. You know, how we're gonna finance that. Pat McGow, our chair of the.
No,
That's
not who I am tonight.
I know you're not.
I'm Pat
And
McGow.
I'm giving you this big build up.
I'm the city's bond attorney.
You are here for the city guy. On this, how we're gonna finance this. I thought Sandy was gonna give you this big introduction, but.
Look, let Sandy give a big introduction.
I just like the fact that earlier.
You wanted to get right up there.
I just like the fact that earlier tonight I asked a budget question and Sandy comes popping in, and then I bring up Brownfield and Pat McGow shows up. So.
You got my attention. So I know this is a financial consideration of the Vector truck. Tell us why we have Pat here.
Victor Vector.
I think Pat needs no introduction. I think everybody here knows him from Miller Canfield. He is our bond counsel tonight, not our Brownfield consultant or chair. So back in November, council approved the purchase of a Vector truck and authorized us to move forward with the installment purchase agreement. So in your packet are two documents. One, the resolution authorizing us to move forward with the installment purchase agreement. If that is approved, we will get the RFPs out tomorrow.
Right.
They would be due back March 26th, and we would close on the agreement mid-April. I'll let Pat talk about the two documents.
Could you just describe what this type of truck is? And it's very expensive.
Yes,
Yes.
it helps.
Yeah. So,
You
want to explain
a Vector truck is sort of our everyday truck that has a large vacuum on it. So it has a pump, so it can suck out and clean out sewers. It can be used for hydro excavating where it blasts water and can make holes. So to get to water main breaks or to breaks in the underground, it does hydro excavating as well as vacuuming. So it's a multi-use truck. It's used regularly by Public Works. It's a great time saver. And the one we have is, I think, 25 years old and broken or on its last leg. So duct taped, basically.
Super fluid too.
604.
Justice than I would have.
My one question as we transition to Pat is, The budget impact notes that the acquisition of the Vector truck will be financed through an installment purchase agreement with annual debt services to be paid from the general fund.
Correct.
So why is our bond attorney here?
But we still.
The debt service on the,
Process.
Is it, even though it's coming from the general fund? It's because it's an installment fund, and you can speak to that, but just making sure I understand the process behind that.
Don't you guys know each other? You know, don't you guys know?
We've met.
So Pat is here again as our bond counsel.
Thank you,
tonight.
and
He
good
wears a lot
evening.
of hats.
Patrick
Put that
McGow.
hat. Pat McGow.
So this is a very expensive truck, and rather than paying for it in one lump sum, the city is going to finance it.
Yep.
So this type of financing is something that the city has done quite a bit in the past, but not recently. So this is not a bond issue, but we are asking for financing from an outside bank or financial institution. So last November, you agreed to buy the truck and then pursue an installment financing. The last time the city did this, it was for a fire truck. So it's a very common tool for equipment purchases. It's not as elaborate as a bond issue. We're not going through a rating process, but we are going to request bids from financial institutions, and it is a financing document, so it is debt. And as part of that, you get to borrow tax exempt. So this is much less complicated than a bond issue, but you still have to go through some of those steps.
Yep.
What you have here before you tonight is sort of the one-step approval for the financing. You've already approved the purchase of the truck, but this approves entering into this financing arrangement with a financial institution to be selected. We're requesting bids, and these things usually close pretty quickly. So when the bids come in, we'll review them with the city manager and the finance director. We'll look at who's given us the best deal in terms of rate. We're looking at a 7-year financing, and then we would proceed to close so the money's available when the truck is ready in May.
Okay, thank you.
So I am here because I prepared the resolution, the agreement, and will deliver the opinion to make sure that you get to borrow tax exempt at the lowest rate.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
So we don't know what the interest rate would be
We don't.
yet, as of now. I saw it's blank in here, but that's
It is
still.
blank. We won't know until we get bid.
Correct.
And so this is not a large financing. So this usually the city's financial advisor, MFCI, will send a proposal out to their list of 20 to 30 banks that bid on these kinds of things. We hope to get 3 or 4 bids, and then we will look at those. We're really going to award based on the lowest interest rate. We are asking for 2 different alternatives, one that would allow for prepayment, one that wouldn't. And then we'll look and see which of those gives the city the best deal and most flexibility.
And what is the timing? We're going to put that out.
We'll request proposals here this week, and then we expect to get them back by the end of March.
Okay.
And then close by mid-April, so the money's available by May when the truck is ready.
So May is when we think we would have the truck in service, or I'm sure there's a timeline for acquisition as well there.
Sandy, do you happen to know when the truck is available?
Yeah, Mike said it should be available late April, early May.
Okay.
Sometime in
His projections are.
Okay.
And we need it. It's a need. And I know the township, we usually buy their old equipment because they never use it because they really don't have a DPW, but they spend $12 million on it.
And I will just add that this type of financing does not have a rating. But as you all know, the city received a AAA bond rating from Standard & Poor's last year, one of only 17 local units of government in Michigan to have that rating.
Right.
And so even though this is not rated, we put into the proposal that the city did receive a AAA bond rating from S&P last year. So when this does go out, the bidders will know the high quality and creditworthiness of the city when they submit bids.
I appreciate that, and you're welcome to come to any city council meeting.
Again.
Over and over.
Whatever you want.
We did that at 6:30.
So with
Did we ever
that,
get the
any other
cost on
clarifying
there?
questions
I
from
don't think we
council
ever did.
for Pat or Sandy?
Pat was answered everything.
Great.
I don't know if we have it on the right. It is, we keep saying expense. I said expense. It's $604,000
Yes.
and change.
Mhm.
So, so when we talk about expense, that's very expensive.
It is
Necessary, but expensive.
necessary piece of equipment. Anybody from the audience? Well, no. Okay. I am closing it off. Council, anybody online right now? Okay, great. I'm closing off public comment on this. I had to go to the next level. It's not a public hearing. This is just public comment on this. I'm looking for a motion to go forward. You have a sample motion in your package. I'm looking for that to be on the table.
I move that city council approve the resolution authorizing the city to enter into an installment purchase agreement pursuant to Michigan Public Act 99 of 1993 to finance the purchase of a Vector truck for the Department of Public Works. It is further moved to approve the installment purchase agreement as to form and authorize the city manager to approve the financing terms.
Okay, so we have a motion. I'm looking for support of that motion. We have support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Boom. You have the authority to go get that Vector truck. Suck it up. Let's go. The next one, so where I was so excited before, 10, mayor and council communications. I think tonight is an example of local government. We have talked from Ford Field all the way down to the farmer's market, all the different sections in between. We covered a lot of ground here tonight. Appreciate all the time and energy. As you heard, a lot of different groups were involved, whether it was the farmer's market or Ford Field. So everybody was part of this and all the work from the staff, outstanding job here tonight. And remember tomorrow, whether you're a Sparty or a Wolverine, we're all green tomorrow night, aren't we? It's St. Patty's Day. So enjoy tomorrow night, get downtown, have a little green beer, enjoy the downtown atmosphere. Let's be green for one day together, can't we? Okay, let's do that. Okay. Others from council, anything in closing remarks?
Well, I have something very nerdy to say, which is no surprise, but there's so many things in the consent agenda which are wonderful. But in particular, I want to thank Sandy, who has the resolution in there for the amending and restating for the cemetery fund. It was needed for GASB and for accounting. That's the nerdy stuff, but again, compliance is very important. But also it emphasizes not only Rural Hill, but also Oakwood in terms of that in perpetuity management of that. And so I really appreciate your taking a look at that and making that resolution.
And for staying tonight too, all the way to the end and running all the way down from finance.
There's a lot more in that consent
Pat
agenda.
ran in here 'cause we were talking about Brownfield for a little bit. Go ahead. Others.
Mine will be quick. A lot today that we should be really excited about, from Ford Field to the farmer's market to the roads, to even going back to the library survey and some of the exciting plans there. There is a lot to look forward to. There's a lot to be proud of as well. And so Wednesday night here at City Hall, 7 p.m. will be a meeting of the bicentennial team. Hope that many of you out there can join as we continue to plan that celebration as well.
Great. Excellent. Any on this?
I'm good.
Andrew?
Mayor, I'd like to offer an alternative to St. Patrick's Day tomorrow night, and that is a planning commission meeting.
I'm early. I am going.
Okay, good luck with that.
So it's really dry, both in substance and in terms of like, no offense, Justin, but we will be discussing renovations to the Marquee Theater, and then some other discussion on porch lot coverage. So if green beer isn't your thing and you want to be among brethren here talking about heady city matters instead, please do that. And then also is just out of the consent agenda, just want to give a heads up that the Kiefer Foundation does great work. Steve Kiefer was a GM executive, and everything he's doing, and unfortunately got life circumstances put him into that. For distracted driving, put your phones down. That's saves lives. So I'm proud that the city is supporting the Kiefer Foundation and everything they're doing.
And we were part of that legislation when the governor came down. Is at the ice arena with the Kiefer Foundation a couple of years ago, and it's our privilege to support that and be there for the Kiefer Foundation. So great. Anything from your world?
It's perfect. She's
good. Super. I'm looking for a motion for adjournment.
George.
Oh, George. George, we always pontificate. Let us know the true words of life.
There's one thing we never.
I know.
It's consistent,
George.
I have nothing to share. Thank you.
Okay, you have nothing to share. I did offer that. So now can I have a motion for adjournment? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, okay. Oh my, thank you.